Okay. All right, good evening, everyone. I'd like to call to order the Verona Borough Council business meeting for February 8th, 2022. Please stand for the pledge.
To the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, Christine, would you like to take roll call, please?
Dave Matlin,
Present?
Joey Warren,
Present.
Ray Suchovich,
Present.
Sylvia Provenza,
Present.
Trish Redzek Showalter,
Present.
Vince Flota,
Here.
Rhoda Wharf, David Recupero,
Present.
Craig Alexander,
Present.
Matt Pitch,
Present.
Christine DeRunk, present.
All right, thank you. Are there any emergency additional agenda items from council at this time?
I have something. Annette reminded me that we still have to solve the issue of how we're going to pay for parking for the officers if we're getting rid of petty cash. So we need to figure that out.
All right. You want to do that in your report or at the end, or where should we put that in there?
Sure, I'll add it to the end of my stuff.
Okay. All right. We did have 3 registered comments from the public tonight. As I understand it, the first 2 have canceled.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, I'm checking for our attendees. I do not see the first or second name as guests, so we would be able to move to the 3rd registered comment.
Okay. All right, so the 3rd registered comment is the Verona Garden Club regarding the Botany and Booze event.
We have her unmuted. Angela, if you could have your name and your address, please.
Yes, Angela Acapini, 521 Center Avenue.
And Kimberly Roller, 853 First Street.
All right, thank you. Good evening, Angela and Kimberly. Please go ahead with your comments.
I have a presentation deck that I had emailed council, but I'd like to possibly share my screen and walk through that, if you may.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay.
All right, you should be able to share now.
Thank you.
And Kim, before you launch into it, for council, if you have a packet that has a paper clip on it, and that has the materials that Kim and Angela had forwarded last week related to Botany and Booze, so that you can refer to it.
Okay, so I'm just going to be going over some quick information about the event itself, and then Angela will take the second portion of the presentation. So this is just about the Botany and Booze event slated for May 21st and 22nd. To give a quick overview of last year's attendance and vendor count versus this year's attendance and vendor count. Last year's attendance was about 800 for the entire weekend. We had 6 breweries and 19 vendors, 2 of which were community group vendors, and an average of 1 to 2 food trucks per day. For 2022, we have an estimated attendance of 900 to 1,000 people, give or take. We do have 14 breweries booked per day. Our 14th brewery just confirmed this morning. 25 craft vendors booked with another 12 or so in the docket. And then we are getting applications on a daily for people who'd like to be vendors at that event. And we have 4+ food trucks a day. And the event logistics for this year, for 2022, is as follows. May 21st and 22nd, the hours will be from 12 to 6 p.m. with tasting from 12 to 4 p.m. for those with purchased tickets. The setup and teardown is estimated about 2 hours before and after the event. And then it had been requested that we look at adjusting the hours and making them later. I did want to note that because it is May, that sunset is actually at 8:36 p.m. on those days. And it does take us about 2 or 3 hours to tear down on that final day. And as we all know, that park does not have overhead lighting. So it would be extremely difficult to adjust those hours. In addition, the breweries and vendors have already been notified of those hours, and some of them have specific times that they can do it. The event is planned to double in size this year. And this will need and require a street closure in order for optimal safety, social distancing, and crowd allowance of the 500 plus attendees, their wheelchairs and strollers. The Verona businesses on East Railroad that would be affected by a closure are encouraged to place the 10 by 10 canopy, booth, or table outside of their business on the public street. And if they do have that and they let us know, we will reserve a space for them. They will not be charged a vendor fee. We would absolutely welcome any of the East Railroad businesses who've been affected by the closure to join everybody else on the event side and have a great time with us. Additionally, the Verona Garden Club is renting portable restroom solutions that includes an ADA appropriate restroom. The Barrow building restrooms will be off limits for the event attendees, so we would not require access to the Barrow building and utilize resources there. Entertainment will be placed under the main pavilion, the Railroad Park Pavilion across from South. The entertainment will be facing and performing towards South Avenue, same as they did for last year's event. A full street closure will allow guests to safely enjoy the music from the street and allow for additional optimal social distancing and traffic. The food trucks will be parked on the park side of East Railroad, facing the businesses on East Railroad. The lines for these trucks would then be able to be safely placed in the street. And additionally, the street vendors would then be placed in and around the parking spaces on the opposite side. That allows for business visibility. The trucks will not block any of the businesses on East Railroad. And again, if they would like to have a spot in front of their building reserved or to be, have more visual presentation, we're absolutely happy to do that as well. Just to talk about marketing, because it's what I do for a living and kind of passion of mine. 2021, we had Trib articles, both print and digital, that were written up about the event, both before and after the event. That is included in your packet as well, Council. Social media outreach. We had each brewery and craft vendor shared their posts, which expanded our outreach beyond our standard organic reach for the marketing. We had Pittsburgh bloggers sharing the event. It was shared on the Chamber of Commerce's social media channel. Printed yard signage was up everywhere. We had large banners placed on ARB and Railroad Park. We had the digital billboard on ARB with Still City billboards. And we had multiple ads and articles in the Spring Verona newsletter. All of that is exciting to say that, again, we were nominated in the Pittsburgh City paper for Best Street Festival, which we placed in the top 10 on that, which is pretty exciting for a first year event. Talk a little bit about impressions and the people that this reached in and outside of Verona. For our organic post on Facebook, we got 8,738 impressions. That's people reached who viewed the actual post for that day. 438 reactions, comments, or shares, 221 likes, 202 comments on shares, and 595 post likes. That's pretty exciting for a first time event in Verona in general, but it's a general first time event. Our event impressions for the event post that was sold out for day one, we reached 20,772 people on the event alone with 956 responses. Our 2022 marketing overview, we have a social media outreach announcement on January 25th that went out. Each brewery engaged in that announcement post either shared or commented on it. It's received increased impressions and confirmed vendors who began to share. The call for vendors was actually shared on the Chamber of Commerce's social media channel on January 4th. And our save the date was again shared on the Chamber of Commerce's social media channel on January 25th. Again, that's the Verona Chamber of Commerce. We have some new marketing is coming up as well. Printed yard signage, large banners placed on ARB and around town. We're going to work with digital billboards again. More to come on the Spring Verona newsletter. And they're working on press releases this year for newspapers, bloggers, and new forms of communication. Our organic reach right now on Facebook has already began to increase, and you can kind of see Facebook and Instagram. Our organic Facebook post has already received 5,184 people have reached that post, as well as 538 engagements, 35 shares. One of my favorite comments on this particular post actually says, somebody said, "Springtime in Verona is beautiful," which I think really shows that it's a great promotion for the borough, and kind of made me personally feel wonderful about it. And then people are again asking, let's go. We had so much fun at the last year. I can't wait. I'm marking my book. So it's all very encouraging for another large attendance for the event again this year. And then again, 67 people liked our Instagram post, with just about every brewery mentioning something on the post. Stonewall, one of our own Verona businesses, said, "Good times, good people, can't wait. Green thumb wannabe." So that's all very exciting. And to just kind of talk about the Verona Garden Club and the event in general. The Verona Garden Club is a 501c3 pending. We have all submitted all that information. Civic organization that is proud to serve in the beautification of Verona. The club is responsible for each hanging basket and planter along the business districts. We are required to purchase the baskets and now maintain them with watering during the growing season. Additionally, we are responsible for other areas in Verona, such as the Pavilion Garden, the gazebo, and the Veterans Wall Steps Garden. We have purchased, as a side note, we have purchased self-watering baskets that will come down this year for Allegheny River Boulevard, that is both sustainable and beautiful, and we couldn't have done that without last year's Botany and Booze event. Additionally, the Christmas baskets that were up this year could not have been done without the Botany and Booze event. So we are requesting a street closure. Limiting or removing a closure will place a cap on the fundraising that the event is capable of, and this will reduce the beautification projects that the club has planned to serve the community. This week-long event allows the Verona Garden Club to beautify our borough for the entire year and beyond. And then I'll let Angela kind of take it from here.
And I believe everybody has the maps that were sent to the council, all 2 or 3 maps that were sent to council. If you can confirm that everybody has that in their email and they see that.
Yep.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, great. So ideally, what we are proposing is the closure from the Borough Building Garage down to Miller's. That would give us optimal space and social distancing. That would allow us to bring in several more vendors. It gives us space for the food trucks. If you see where Kimberly adjusted for the food trucks to be on the park side of the road, so those food trucks will not block any of the businesses, will not block any of the windows or the entrances to the businesses. Also, the rest of the vendors that we anticipate will be in front of those businesses, with the exception of any of those businesses that want to take a spot themselves, though they will be reserved for that business in itself. We were also going to ask with that closure that we would like to have 3 parking spaces on the corner of South Avenue and East Railroad, for 2 for the event center. Should they decide to actually have an event in their building, those 2 spots would be reserved for the event center, that they could do drop-offs, or anybody that would need to just be dropped off at the corner, or just for general unloading purposes. They have 2 reserved spots, and we'd also like to ask for 1 additional spot for Gloria's on Saturday for her business, in case she has customers that need to access her on Saturday, that they have at least 1 reserved spot. That is the ultimate, what we would love to have. We would love to see that. Opening any other options as far as opening that street partially is just not a good idea as far as safety. The way it's set up, where the music is going to be, the people will be filtering into the streets. Last year, we tried to close it we tried to open up south and have the traffic turn left towards Miller's, and it just caused a lot of commotion there. People were filtering into the streets. It's going to be too many people there, especially with that area there, particularly with the music. So we would like to see the full street closure all the way up to Miller's, and that would give us ultimate safety for the people attending this event.
We also I shared it on the screen. You can also see we have tried to work and figure out a location for turnaround in 3 spots. We've also not closed anything that would block the borough garage or the police department.
Right.
So it would be modified emergency vehicle access for fire, ambulance, police, if somebody, if the borough workers need to get in there as well.
And because the vendors are going to be in parking spots and the food trucks will be in parking spots, should an emergency arise where, any emergency vehicles have to access any part of that street, they will have the full street will be open in the middle where we can still, trucks or anything or ambulances can go up the middle there and access should there be an emergency and they need to get through there. So those vendors and those food trucks are all in parking spots. So there's nothing in the middle of the street other than people, which we would have to obviously move if we need to get an emergency vehicle through there. But there is plenty of space for any emergency vehicle to go through there. Like Kimberly said, nobody's driveways will be blocked. Everything will be remain open. The turnaround remains open. The borough garage doors will remain open. There won't be any vendors in front of them. No food trucks, no breweries. Everything will remain open for easy access. That should you need to get in there for any reason into the borough building garage, nothing will be blocking that garage. The borough parking lot at the end is still accessible for people to park or turn around. And does anybody have any questions about the map or any concerns that maybe we can address before you make a decision today?
Yeah, so Angela, this is Dave. I do have one question or concern, minor, but I will say I'll let council, if there are any other questions for you or Kimberly, to speak up now. I think what we'll do is we have this on an agenda item as an action item later in the meeting, and so at that point is when we'll have further discussion amongst council about this. But right now, I just want to get, if there are any questions or concerns to bring to the attention of either Angela or Kimberly, now's probably the better time to do that. My only question is for the South Avenue closure at South Avenue and East Railroad, it shows a turnaround there. I know a couple of us have been talking about this and wondering if we maybe want to close westbound South Avenue at ARB, just so we don't have people doing a 3-point turn there. At least the traffic coming off of ARB to keep traffic from coming off of ARB, turning down south, and then kind of getting stuck and having to turn around. It's going to create a lot of headaches for the traffic coming down Diamond Way from either direction. And then if there were parking spots reserved there, it also maybe make a challenge for those. So that would be my only question or concern, if that could be looked at, and maybe that's perhaps something that could be reviewed in more detail with as we get closer with the with the mayor and the police chief if necessary. But
Dave, if I may, I know what you're talking about. There will be a roadblock at South Avenue coming towards East Railroad, and there will be a sign at the roadblock, "Do not enter." So only the cars coming down Diamond Way will be able to exit out, because like you said, that with the cars that do come in there, they would have to make a U-turn to get out. And, in the past, we've always put a roadblock with "Do not enter" coming in on South Avenue, from Allegheny River Boulevard.
yeah.
So that's not going to be a problem at all. We've never had really a problem. You get a few people to go around the roadblock, but you can't help that. But that's not going to be a problem.
So my only suggestion on that would be for a reserved spot for the event center or for Gloria's, the garden club would be happy to purchase signs that say, event center, turn this way. And perhaps we could have them their guests come down Diamond Way and drop off there and then come around. And, just to be able to have a specific area for those guests of those businesses to be dropped off. If we could work on something there so that they can be dropped off on that corner. There is an ADA ramp there. And those businesses are just a short, quarter or a half a block away. I want to be able to kind of figure out a solution there. Obviously, we wouldn't have to figure out that in the meeting. We'd want to talk to mayor and the chief of police, regarding public safety, but figuring something out so we can have something reserved for them. And additionally, a sign that, again, the Garden Club would pay for that says that businesses on East Railroad are open during the closure so that people don't see a closure and assume that those businesses are closed. We again want to support the businesses and let people know that they're still there and they're open. So that would be my only suggestion if we're going to not allow traffic from ARB onto South, would be to figure out some solution so that we could have those spaces for that business.
Well, like you said, they could come down Diamond Way, then go through the roadblock and park. I would suggest only on one side. You could probably get 4 to 5 cars there. This way, if they do leave, they could just kind of like make a U-turn. So there's, if there's no cars on the other side, they can make a U-turn. But I would also suggest on Center Avenue from Diamond Way to East Railroad Avenue. I talked to the council president, Dave Matlin, and I discussed with him, we could possibly from Diamond Way to East Railroad Avenue on both sides put signs, business parking only, half hour, all others will be towed. And I mean, nobody's going to really police them, but just kind of let people, our counters know that, oh man, I can't park there because I'm going to get towed within a half hour. I'm going to be over in the field for more than a half hour. We could try that, but I could get with you and we can discuss that further.
Yeah, the Garden Club in general, we're willing to help. We want this to be an entire community event. We want to make sure that, the businesses aren't, affected too much, but, understanding that we're also trying to make sure that we have safety for the people that are attending, the over 500 people that are attending the event. So if there's additional signage needed or anything of that nature, the Garden Club is more than willing to pay for that and to help so that we can all have a safe and really great event for all of Verona.
And maybe next month or whenever I can get with you and Angela, we can go over, the ideas that I have. We still have a lot of time. I have no problem with shutting the street down for this event, but maybe we could, come up with a solution if I show you what I'm, planning on proposing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Does anyone on council have any, or council or mayor or staff have any questions for the Garden Club at this time?
No. Thanks for all the preparation. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Guys.
Yeah, thank you both for the detailed presentation and the information. This is very helpful. And like I said, we will be discussing and acting on this later in the meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, moving on. At this time, council will hear comments from the public on agenda-related items only. Please raise your virtual hand, clearly state your name and address, and limit your comments to 3 minutes.
All right, I'm looking to the attendees online. We have one person with their hand raised. Sean, if you could go ahead and unmute and list your name and your address, please.
Hey, this is Sean McGonigal. I'm at the Pittsburgh Event Studio, 713 East Railroad.
Thank you. You can go ahead with your remarks for your 3 minutes, sir.
All right. Hey, I just wanted to mention, we're the ones who've talked about maybe some alternate plans for having parking or street closures. And I was hoping that we could consider an alternate plan that we had emailed to the council earlier this week. I think you may have it as a handout, but we liked the Botany and Booze event, and I'm happy to hear that it was successful last year and maybe even expanding in the future. I think it's a great event. I think it brings a lot of attention to Verona, so we're all about that. One thing I would like the council to consider before they decide on this is that I think it's possible to still have a street closure and just move the street closure down on East Railroad to have a setup that I think would be an excellent compromise between businesses and the garden club event. This is something that we discussed with Kim last week as well. And I think this is one of the options that she had come up with as well. Out of, I think she had 3 options that would be presented. So this is one of them that we discussed. Some things I'd like to mention about this. So this also allows for use of the park, the Barrow lot, and East Railroad. It still allows for emergency vehicles to get in and out of the Barrow building and have that turnaround. It has similar ability to go down Diamond Way, Center Ave, and you can get to Giant Eagle if you put the barriers where I have marked on this map. But I think some important things here is that it's so obviously, like for businesses, I think we would rather have no street closure. And I understand Garden Club's plan where they have an ideal street closure that's right in front of most of the businesses. But I think that this would be a nice compromise solution that allows the businesses to have basically no impact to their service. So you can get Billy K's down through Gloria's open for people to pull up and park. You end up getting about the same, it's just slightly less. I think it's like 30 versus 27 parking spots if you close the lot instead of closing East Railroad by the parking that you would get back compared to the other map. And this also allows Hula Bar, I think, to participate more meaningfully in this event because the event kind of gets split down towards their end. And so for us, we get no benefit by setting up a canopy tent outside. That's not how we make our money. But I think Hula Bar would be interested in participating in this event more. And if they could just throw open their garage doors that they have in the building and maybe serve the people who are at the event, it would be great if the event was a little more towards their end of the street. And that also supports Inner Groove by putting some of the vendors just directly outside their building. This map is something that we've already done before too for the Inner Groove block party, where we had a partial street closure on that end. So it's similar in that. It's worked in the past. On that side of the street, you have a full curb cut by the Barrow building, the Barrow lot. And you have some ADA ramps on that side as well. So people can go back and forth across the street on that side. And they'd be able to walk down East Railroad without having to cross the street where the barriers are blocked off. So I understand that this option, it isn't ideal for either the businesses or the Botany and Booze event, but I think that this would be a nice compromise, where maybe we can all live with this solution and have it still be successful.
Okay. Thank you, Sean, for your feedback and for your comments. Like I mentioned, council will be discussing this further and taking action later in the meeting.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. And we do not have any other virtual residents with hands up at this point for public comments.
What about the next page?
Page 2. No one on the following pages either. Yeah, so we have no more remaining
Okay.
public comments.
That concludes the comments. Next on our agenda, we have approval of the minutes and the monthly financial reports. Mr. Warren will go over the monthly financials for January.
Thank you. So for all of council here, you have in front of you all of our paperwork for finances for this month. For January, we're looking at the budget versus actual for the general fund, which is at $164,035 against a budget of $1,763,509 for the year. So we're at 9.3% of the budget. Total expenses were at $133,815, which is 8.2% of budget. I'm going to share some of the pieces with the expenditures. There's more detail for you to see, but I want to make a couple of things noted for the meeting. Major expenditures on the bill list, you'll see that there's Pampina Landscaping and Construction for $35,524. That's for the Cribbs Field Pavilion. Senate Engineering bill for $8,033 for engineering services. Allegheny Valley North COG, the cost of $7,408 for annual dues, and a Highmark bill of $5,211 for employee health insurance. And a couple of notable major receipts to share, which exclude the taxes, are the Oakmont Municipal Authority for $114,520 for the sewer rental fee. Spangler Paving at $71,301 for the vehicle sale. Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, $30,195 for the GPTSO grant. Penn Hills for $18,000 for the annual intermunicipal sewer agreement. And the Riverview School District at $5,102 for the fourth quarter 2001 crossing guards cost that we incurred. Again, going through, there's more detail. But I'll just say for the list of bills, they do total the $103,241 that you see on page 11. And with that, I want to make a motion for us to accept these bills as noted for this evening.
I'll make a motion.
A second.
Okay, first by Mrs. Provenza, second by Mr. Suchovich. Any questions or comments? All right, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any opposed? All right, motion passed. All right, thank you. Next, we have approval of the minutes. You should have seen from Christine the minutes for January 11th regular business meeting and the January 25th workshop meeting. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll make a motion. I'll second.
Okay, first by Mr. Suchovich, second by Mr. Flota. Any questions or comments?
No.
All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, motion passed. All right, next we'll move on to the various reports. The first is Council President's report. I don't really have anything on here. The only thing I will say is I'll make a quick comment about the meeting format. We are still doing a format where council chambers are closed to the public due to the recent surge in COVID-19 cases. I know that surge has been subsiding and the trend is going downward pretty well. So the hope is that either at the next either the February workshop or the March business meeting, that if the trend continues, we may look to open the council chambers back up to the public. Again, we're doing this in an effort to help stop the surge and be respectful of those who are particularly vulnerable. And so that's all I have from my end of things. The next item we have is the mayor's report.
I only have two quick things. I just with the police committee and like to have a meeting with you, Ray, if you could set it up possibly next week. Go over some personnel issues.
You mean the public safety committee?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I know
okay.
the public safety. I know everything has been changed. I apologize. Public safety committee.
Well,
I could
what's the issue?
on personnel.
That would go under finance now.
Okay, on finance, I would like to meet then with I don't have the paper in front
Yeah,
of me.
so I chair finance and we look over personnel and contracts. So if you want to meet with us for the next meeting, we can.
Yeah,
have you join.
let me know when, and a couple ordinance issues also.
Sure. And if it does pertain to contract, personnel, or anything that's private having to do with the municipality, we'll have to go into executive session. But if it's in general, you can definitely join us.
Well,
Well, I thought every
Ordinance
committee
or
was
which ordinance? I mean, what kind of ordinances?
sidewalks, grass, those type of ordinances.
Okay, that would probably fall under community development.
All right,
Okay.
that's all I have.
All right, thank you, Mayor. Next is the Borough Secretary's report. Christine?
Okay, so I have a few items. The first is the BIU code enforcement report. This is in your packet, but it was a loose one, so it's one of the ones in the back, just has a table on it. This is something I started to create that I think might be a little more useful. So this is all of the open notices of violation by month and street. And so you'll see the list of streets where there are still outstanding NOVs, notices of violation. There's only one violation open that was issued in July, one open from August. Both of those are actually headed to court. There are 5 open from October, 16 from November, and 11 in January of this year, for a total of 34 open NOVs. And I forget which street the third one is. That's also headed to court, but there are 3 headed to court, 2 of them this Thursday. And then I'll just update this monthly so we can see how things are shifting as things get cleared up. I did talk to Mike about this. He said it's pretty common in the winter months for the number of outstanding NOVs to remain high, just because if it's, you know, a roof issue or a gutter issue, for example, people typically don't go on their roofs with the snow to make repairs. So they end up, you know, getting extensions to abate. Any questions on this report? Okay. The second is just an FYI. There was a kickoff with GovUnity, who is rebuilding our website. I met with the developers 2 weeks ago just to go over the high level needs of the new website. So they're kind of working on pulling down files that'll need to go onto the new website. And they'll be doing that for another week or so. They reminded me that the biggest delay in launching a new site is the lack of content, specifically images and photos. So this is a reminder that if you have any photos, please share them with me. These are places around town or community events. And for those of you that have not sent in your biographies and headshots, please do so. The next item is an FYI as well. It's an update on the sale of the Peterbilt. As Joey said in the finance section, we did get a large invoice. We sold the Peterbilt for $71,301, which is $31,301 more than we thought we would get. So that's very exciting. Next item is People's Gas is going to be working on First Street between Spring and South and along Poplar beginning in June. That's something that Ray, you had brought up, that you had sort of heard the rumor mill about. I called People's, I got confirmation on that. They sent a map. It looks pretty extensive what they're doing. And so just as an FYI, next for the workshop meeting, Matt did provide to me already, and I'll whip something up with it and send it to you all for consideration. We may want to move to a full width paving requirement anytime somebody digs up the road, particularly as they dig up our brand new roads. We don't want to end up with, you know, something that's just been chopped up. So that's coming for your consideration at the end of the month. And thank you, Matt, for providing that, you know, a baseline for where we can start with that.
Can I interject something? If it is about People's Gas, can it also be for the water company?
Yeah, this is anybody. This would just be, you know, an ordinance that would, yeah. Yep. An update from Steel City, not really from, but about Steel City billboards. Last time I was asked to do some research into what had been agreed upon by the borough and Steel City billboards for the billboard that's located on ARB. Per the letter received by the borough dated August 23rd of 2018, we're allotted 45 minutes daily for purposes such as, and I quote, amber and silver alerts, community events, emergency public service announcements, and to highlight employees and or community members and the like. So that's, you know, the extent of the information that we really have related to any agreement between us and Steel City billboards. So I offer that to you all as you write policies for the billboard and Cribbs Field sign. The next one is the update on the Marquis sign at Cribbs and how the dimming is programmed. I was asked to do research on how that sign gets dimmed as related to the question of whether we wanted to acquire the sensor that would have the sign automatically dim. So there is a setting in the dashboard of this program that allows one to set a schedule and it runs until you change it. So it's not a set it and forget it. You cannot program, winter months versus summer months in advance. It will stay how it's set until it's changed. And so the question is, now that we know that, does council want to revisit the auto dimmer? And if so, Matt, we would be asking you to provide some additional information about costs and installation fees and things of that ilk.
Yeah, I got an email back from the manufacturer. The sensor installed would be $500. And that can be done at any time.
You know what, that's not even that right.
It's not.
I know, but for the hearing, the stipulations.
How hard would it be
Were
to
set forth that it needs to be dimmed at a certain
change it?
hour, and it actually needs to turn off at 10 o'clock.
Yes, and that's all settable through the dashboard. It's just, if you set it for the winter month, the turn to dim at 5 o'clock, you then have to go back in
Change it.
come March when the times start changing, or next thing you know, it's right outside and you can't read the sign. So I mean, without the sensor, we could come up with maybe 4 points throughout the year to make that change. I don't think it's something that Christine needs to be logging in daily trying to chase the sunset and stuff like that. It's just an option that with the sensor, you would just set what brightness you wanted at, and it would just automatically do it. So if you get a sunnier day one day or a cloudy day the next day, it would adjust itself rather than having to use the app.
You say everything's about $500.
Yeah,
Would it turn off though? Because it's just a dim.
I believe you could still set the time to turn off in the app. We can definitely find out from the company though.
But that's
So I
to
was
turn off to
wondering
10?
I think 9 maybe actually.
I think it's 8 in the winter months and 9 in the summer.
Okay, that's not covered under the grant.
It is under, yeah, no, the sensor is inside.
Yeah,
So
and I can
if
get
it
that.
doesn't dim though, I mean, if it only dims and doesn't shut off, she would have to go into the program and have it shut off.
Every day. And I'm
Yes,
that's not
because
happening.
Yeah.
9 o'clock on the
I'm not
weekdays
doing
and
that.
10 o'clock.
I'd imagine that the sensor and the app are cohesive with each other, but I'll definitely ask that question before we make a decision.
Also, a workaround is that if you would have to go in and change it every day to shut off, it just says it has to be shut off by 10 o'clock on the weekends, and by 9 o'clock on the weekdays. The workaround would be for you to just program it to shut off every day at 9 o'clock, so that way we're covered. That's if the sensor doesn't shut it off, but only dims it. You can set it up in the program to shut off every day at 9 o'clock.
Yes.
That way we're covered. But you better if it shuts off at 9. You better do it every day, change it from 9 to 10 o'clock. All right, that was a question.
So are we continuing to do research on this to make a decision about this $500? Because last time it seemed like maybe some people were interested in the $500, other people weren't.
I would,
And so-
personally, I would think if the $500, which you turn it on and off at a certain time, do all the dimming it needs to do, to me, that's worth it.
I have to agree.
Even
mean,
if it
you
doesn't
just
turn
got
off,
$31,000.
If not, Christine got to go in there.
Yeah, no, she doesn't have the time.
Like Matt said, 4 times a year and change the time.
I'll email the exact language from the variance approval and just say, if the sensor's installed, can we set it one time and forget about it? Other than winter and summer, we'll have to go in there and change that out. And I think the percentage of brightness was different. But other than that, I'll send an email and confirm all that, and then I can send it back to everyone.
So you're saying that all year long, it'll shut off at 9 o'clock?
If the sensor doesn't shut it off.
Can I suggest at least at 10 o'clock? Because in the summertime, you got a lot of people walking.
They can't because of the hearing said that during the weekdays, that's shut off at 9. I mean, unless we,
It's just that you have a lot of people walking, in the summertime, and
I know.
it just starts getting dark, and be able to see what's coming, events and what have you. There's a lot of people that walk that area.
That's what the variance hearing rules, so we can't change that. And then from what I'm aware of is we missed our appeal. with them,
Fine.
So we can't even appeal that. So we have to follow it. It's an hour. I mean,
It's livable.
I'd rather have somebody complain that they can't see it than somebody complain that they caused an accident.
What appeal was missed, Vince? I'm sorry.
Zoning hearing
In the
board.
variance hearing for the sign, one of the conditions was that it needs to turn off during the weekdays at 9 PM or the weekends at 10 PM. And it has to dim, I believe, at 7 or 8 o'clock at night.
I would
That's
think at
a
some point in the
30%.
future, you could maybe resubmit that to the zoning hearing board for some sort of reconsideration.
And we could, but I mean, right now, we just can't, we have to follow what they. what they rule.
Absolutely, that's the ruling.
So.
But I mean, and once the sign's up for a year or two, I'm sure we probably will revisit the hearing board, say this. Things have changed, so. But yeah, I think a one-time fee of $500 is going to be a lot more financially responsible and sound than paying Christina 4 times a year for infinity to fix it. So one-time fee of $500 will pay for itself the first year.
We'll get more information.
Yeah, I just say
Bring it.
table with the workshop, and by then I should have the information on how the sensor and the app work together.
Perfect. Thanks, Matt.
Thank you.
The next item is related to Planning Commission. The Planning Commission has 1 vacancy, and we received 2 letters of interest, one from Nancy Carpenter and one from Talia Nevitt. And in my excitement of getting 2 letters for the Planning Commission, I put this here, and really I should have kicked all that stuff at the end. So we'll go over the letters at the end during the resolution part. Just a reminder, speaking of vacancies, there is a vacancy in the Parks and Rec Board as well as Shade Tree Commission. So if you're interested in participating in those important groups, please submit your application, your letter of interest. You can just send that to the borough. You can drop it off, or you can send it to me, and I'll distribute it to council. The next item, our park applications have been received from both LVAF and the Garden Club for LVAF's entire season, as well as for Botany and Booze. And the issue that I'm running into is that there is no process for how to approve park applications. Is it first come, first serve? One of the applications came with a check, the other one did not. What's the process for getting fees waived? Is there a process for getting fees waived? There's no way for me to approve either of these. So I need council's guidance on how we want to move on that issue. And it's possible that we just have to kick this to workshop, but if we do, just know that we have 2 groups that are, waiting for some determination on whether or not they can reserve the parks for those requested dates. And then the very last thing was the emergency item that I added, was brought to my attention again today, that if we are getting rid of the petty cash system in the police department, we do need to figure out some way to pay officers to go downtown and pay for parking, because there is, I think, like $13 in petty cash or something like that left in the police department. So it's not enough to cover parking. And we need to find a way to do that.
What's the average amount that's in petty cash for this department?
That I don't know.
Christine, can they just pay for it, get a receipt, and we'll reimburse them in the paycheck or whatever? Extra, not even in their paycheck, just on the side.
I
That
don't,
would solve a lot of hassle. Just pay it, get a receipt, and we'll reimburse you.
I don't know. I need to, Craig, do you have their contract that you can pull it up and see if there's anything in there
I can't get
about?
on my system.
I can't get on your system. Okay. So we would just need to look that up. I don't know if we can ask
It
them.
just seems easier.
I don't think it's in the contract.
I don't think it is either, but I don't know if that is,
I don't remember.
like,
it
poses
ever
a potential issue, asking employees to pay.
dish their money out. I don't see why we can't have a, X amount of dollars in petty cash, and I understand all the, you know, for that only, like it has always been.
I think until we get it resolved on the P cards or whatever, we get a little money in a petty cash and just
Continue the way.
until we get it resolved with the P cards.
How much petty cash you had to give them?
It's like $20 or something probably to park.
We don't know that.
They-
If they pay it and give you a receipt, then we'll know it.
They're given $20 to cover parking. It typically costs between 12 and 16, depending on where they park, how long they park, that kind of thing. They bring the receipt back and any change, and all of that goes to the police secretary.
Has anybody, I mentioned at the last meeting, I used to park cars downtown. Has anybody checked to see if they have a flex pay plan, kind of like we used to offer leases at our parking garage, and the lease you would hang something from your mirror, and you would only be charged whenever you pulled into that lot. So if we were able to get a lease like that, then we could keep that card in the police office, and whenever somebody needed to go downtown, they could hang it from their mirror, and they would only be charged whenever they showed up at the lot.
I did not look into that.
They do exist. So I used to park down at the courthouse downtown, so. I mean, this was 10 years ago. I'm sure they might have a streamlined system. I'm sure that they probably didn't get rid of something like that. It doesn't.
Is that a possible, I mean, do you think that would be a feasible?
Honestly, I
Solution.
feel like just getting a P card for everybody that has $50 on it is more trackable and it's easier, and it's all like right there in one spot, as opposed to having like one system for, you know, potentially some people and a different system for another, because, you know, probably at least like the chief will end up with a P card. And so if he goes downtown, he's probably gonna use the P card. Now he's using that to pay for parking, but then using this other thing for other people. And in terms of just budgeting and planning for future budgeting and that kind of thing, and thinking about what, you know, our general ledger ends up looking like, and coding and all of that stuff, I feel like it would be better to consolidate paying for parking under one system and just do that one system.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that then.
And that was a matter of discussion with the finance committee last night. I know, Ray, you were on fire call last night and you were able to join for the whole conversation, but we talked before this meeting, catch up on what that looked like. And it was discussing P card that we could issue that had a very small limit on it of $50. So we're exploring that. It's not going to happen very soon. It's going to be a process, but it does seem like the most viable solution for the purchases that do require cash or credit card.
So in the meantime, are we giving them petty cash until we have P cards? Because they have to pay for parking
That's what I would do my
Yeah.
suggestion.
in a couple of days and next week, and
Yeah, I think, I agree that the P card is a better long-term solution, and to keep it under one system. And so I feel like there really isn't a better option right now other than just using petty cash for the time being, for the short term. And just know that we're not gonna continue that, the petty cash thing. But just, this is a stopgap.
That just seems like a lot of extra work. Having to deal with petty cash, just bring in a receipt.
But I think the concern earlier was that we can't, and correct me if I'm wrong, Christine, your concern was that it's not in their contract to have them foot the bill, the upfront money to pay that,
that's what I don't know, is if we can
Wait.
ask them to front the bill.
yeah. I mean,
I'm sorry,
it-
Rhoda, could you repeat what your comment was?
Yeah, I just said, why don't they just pay for their parking, get a receipt, and then we can issue a check? Or Paychecks can issue a check. Everybody has a credit card, you know, or debit card. Less bookkeeping for Christine.
Yeah, I just think the issue is the CBA, the contract.
I say just keep it the same it is now with petty cash until you get the P card and move forward. That's my opinion.
Craig, do you have a legal opinion on this?
I think that that's an acceptable way to do it. I have no problem with that.
Okay, so I'll work that out with Annette. that concludes my list of items. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Christine. Next, we have the police chief's report.
Okay, I have it, complaints, this is for January, complaints received 112, total crimes reported 22, total crimes cleared 20, total persons arrested 4, crime code summary issued 0, vehicle code issued 8, borough code summaries 15, borough parking tickets 21, ordinance violations, we don't have any at this time. Magistrates fines collected $1,280.60. Borough fines and fees collected $120. Police reports purchased $60. Amusement device permit fees, it'll be in next month's report. And total fines and fees collected $1,460.60. Parking permit fees $650. That's it.
I have a question here. David, the borough fines and fees collected, are those the tickets? Because if we issued 21 parking tickets and we only collected $120, I mean.
There might be a
how much
delay.
did it make?
There might be a delay in when they're issued and where they're actually resolved. So it might not correlate by date for the month of the report.
Yes.
Because the numbers don't go.
Well, there's,
I'll look into it and I'll.
Well, it says
look into it.
January report, so I would assume that that was final.
I'll look into it and I'll let you know.
Those are amounts collected, not necessarily tickets issued.
Well, that's what I was
So,
questioning, are borough fines and fees collected, is that considered parking tickets? I don't know.
parking. Where is she?
Just a question.
Yeah, I have a slightly different way of categorizing all this stuff, but I believe when this gets done, fines and fees collected does include the parking tickets. The other thing is, not all people who get parking tickets pay the parking ticket. And so even if 20 were issued, we may not get $100 because people just don't pay the ticket. And then if it ends up going to the magistrate, then we get $2.50. So it's not a multiply parking tickets by $5 and that's the amount of money that we should be collecting or could collect, because there's, like the non-payment.
so there's 3 columns here, 2022, 2022 year to date, 2021 year to date. Are those, Mayor, it seems like something got mixed up because it's saying we
Last year, like complaints received, the very first one, in 2021, we had, for the month of January, we had 109. This month for January, we had 112, so year to date is 112 for January.
It's a year-over-year comparison.
Okay, just double check. I
Right,
was looking at the revenues, but that makes more sense now.
Yeah,
Thank you.
just comparison month,
Yep.
year to year for month to month.
Christine, this is Trish. Could you just repeat what you said the breakdown was when it does go to the magistrate? You're saying we do get significantly less in that case?
We get half. So in the case of a parking ticket, we get $2.50.
And I'm sorry, I don't know if anyone has an update. We are planning to increase our parking tickets this year. Is that started, or does anyone have a status update?
Maybe confirm that yet?
I mean, council would need to determine first what the parking ticket should go to. And we also need to make sure that we don't exceed state limits on parking tickets. I mean, at $5, even doubling to 10, I doubt we would, but there are some of these fines and fees are state regulated. So this would need to be worked out, with the police department to figure out what's legal to do. And then the other thing is just making sure, so the parking tickets were just printed a few months ago and it says $5 on them. So we would just need to, I don't know that we would need to reprint all the parking tickets. I would hope not. That was a large expense. So we would just need to have some system for making sure it was clear that the ticket was $10 and not $5. Or whatever.
Public safety, non-personnel.
Yeah, I would think that would fall under the Public Safety Committee. So that might be something to look at.
So Ray, you chair that. I'm not sure when the next occurrence of the meeting is, but worth discussion, bring back recommendation on that and take a look at, an audit of the payment pad system itself. I mean, if it's printed and we have a stack of 1,000 tickets, say $5, understand what that would look like.
Location on the ticket for other, correct?
I don't remember.
It's been a while since I got parked. I thought you could check for $5 parking and then underneath the other, and you can put another amount in.
Definitely worth exploring to
Yeah,
find
I
out,
don't
because that would be an
remember.
easy, cheap option for
Yeah.
sure. And that's Ray, Vince, Rhoda, you guys can probably tackle that next meeting just to see, sample what that ticket looks like to proceed with it.
All right, any other questions on the police chief's report? All right, thank you, Mayor. Next, we have the fire chief's report. Mr. Dan Teehee.
We have Dan with us. He's unmuted. Dan, are you with us?
Yeah, I'm here.
Thank you. If you want to go ahead and share your report, please.
Yeah. So for the month of January, the fire company had a total of 11 calls. Starting January 4th, 564 South Avenue in Verona for an animal rescue. January 6th, 360 Maryland Avenue in Oakmont, called in as a commercial structure fire. Ended up being smoke inside of an apartment from burnt food. January 11th, 560 West Railroad Avenue in Verona, fire alarm activation, alarm system malfunction. January 14th, 12238 Frankstown Road in Penn Hills, came in as a commercial structure fire, ended up being smoke in a basement from a burned out light ballast. January 15th, we were called for a standby and station for a working structure fire at 223 Payne Drive in Penn Hills. January 18th, 444 Wildwood Avenue in Verona for a vehicle accident, vehicle into a utility pole. January 21st, 560 West Railroad Avenue in Verona for a fire alarm activation, a smoke detector malfunction. January 21st, again at 566 West Railroad Avenue in Verona, which was the same building, for the same incident, a smoke detector malfunction. January 22nd, 375 Rhode Road in Penn Hills for a commercial structure fire. It was a 30-unit apartment building fully involved. January 30th, 730 6th Street rear in Penn Hills for a water line rupture inside of a residence. And January 31st, 5508 Verona Road in Penn Hills for a commercial structure fire. Front porch roof was on fire.
I actually have a couple questions. This is Councilman Warren. First of all, I walked up, I saw the helicopters circling. I thought they were trying to land at Cribs, and I saw there were multiple units on a fire. So thanks for that yesterday. I walked over, saw Ray there as well. So thanks for everyone's quick response to that. Second thing I want to ask is, with the incident report, we're missing incident 3, 11, and 12. I just want to know with the report if, why those were omitted, or if they were deleted, or if it was just a non-call.
So those incident numbers are generated from our emergency reporting system. So anything that comes across that web service gets issued an incident number. Doesn't necessarily mean it's a call. We can have a notification for some type of inspection or a hydrant out of service or anything of that nature, which isn't a call, but it still generates an incident number.
Understood. Thank you. The next question I have is that taking a look at the Verona calls, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 calls to Verona, 3 of which were to the same property for the same malfunctioning alarm system. Can you speak to that? Is that common at that property? Because we had in 1 month, 3 instances at one address.
Yes, it is. It is common with that property. We've had a lot of issues over the years with that. And that is, that was one of the contributing factors for that nuisance fire alarm ordinance that was put in place from the borough.
Great. Well, I think things like this, I like this report that we're seeing because it shows us an immediate trend that's helpful for us to make decisions on things. And I want to ask council that we take a look at this format that we're seeing, possibly to reformat the police department's report in the coming months, because just seeing this like this is helpful for me to see the block, the street, the incidents, because if we see that there's malfunction, not only is this taking up the resources of our fire departments to show up, not only ours, but also our neighbors, but this might be an indicator that the tenants of a property or the owner of a property need to do something. So I just want to say, for the detail I'm seeing, I appreciate seeing that and understanding, you know, where you guys are spending your time and efforts.
Well, if there's something already written in the manual concerning repetitious action or, you know, calling, what is,
That was my next question.
yeah, what are the,
There's an ordinance on it.
Yeah, we
yeah,
are
but
finding.
what does the ordinance say? You know, 3 strikes you're out, or?
No,
I
you get
believe
fined.
You get fined.
Oh, you get fined,
It
okay.
might gradually increase. with
Who
more
does
calls.
that fine then? Who sends the
Property
fine?
owner?
No, but who does the?
Who
fine?
issues
Is it the
fine?
borough?
Well, yeah.
Solicitor, is that something we can bring to your attention, that you'd be able to provide paperwork that fines now?
It's
'Cause I
ordinance
don't want-
number 2 of 20.
What's that?
It's ordinance number 2 of 20.
That we just passed.
An
2 of
ordinance of
20.
the Borough of Verona relating to alarm systems, providing for the issuance of permits for the installation of such systems, revocation of said permits, requiring, it goes on and on. It's for fire, police, and EMS.
Is there a cost on that copy you have in front of you?
Penalties. Any person after receiving notice, written or oral, from the Verona Borough Police, the police, emergency personnel, or other municipal officials have responded to one false alarm as defined in this ordinance during 1 calendar year. Thereafter, pay a service of fine of $30. For a second false alarm in the same calendar year, it's $50. For the third false alarm, it's $100.
So we have $180 in fines due to a property owner for the month of January. As I
For the
read this.
purpose of this determining, it's in a 24-hour period.
Okay.
And there's a lot of stuff in here, but that's the gist.
So Dan, we might need your help on some timestamps on this, but I think the overall goal is not to collect fines, is to make sure that properties are up to where they need to be for the safety of the residents. And they're, yeah, and for some of these tenants as well. So as we look at these, Dan, your date stamp, I don't know if it's timestamped within 24 hours or not technically. So we might have to follow up with you on that to follow up on our part.
Yeah, that's fine. And if you ever have any questions on that, I can take care of that for you. But just for your information, the one on January 21st, it was within a few hours of each other.
Okay, that's helpful then.
Yeah, very hard.
And it is great that we drafted that. I think $30 is a low cost, but you know, steps up to the 50, the 100. I don't know what the fourth is, but I don't want to see a fourth. I'd rather have a property owner actually fix the issue. So we're not having to do more than just, you know, have a false alarm. That's best case scenario at this point.
$100.
What? Yeah.
What does it cost for us just to pull the truck out? You know, seriously.
I'd be actually
We'll have
curious.
some expense.
Yeah, who would have ever thought we'd have 3 in 1 month? I didn't realize this, but seeing this report opens my eyes to that. We might have to revisit as a council at some other point, a fee resolution. I'd say step it up steeper if we're having an issue known, not fixed. Dan, do you know if this has happened on this property or others consistently over the years?
This property, it has. This has been an ongoing issue for several years.
Okay, well, as a matter of tracking, I think we have our first, second, third instance of 2022. So for everyone's safety, I think we can probably proceed with paperwork on these.
Work on it with Ray Arkley. Don't you have the firearm committee, we can do that, and we'll get together.
Public safety, yeah.
We can get together and do that.
Yeah, but you have to have the police issue the citations.
Yeah, I think this is enforcement at this point, so it might be something we could be advised by the solicitor on actually pursuing the fines and. Yeah.
Increase, and then I think that if they don't pay the fines, then we should be able to take them to the magistrate for the normal fine of $300 to $1,000 or whatever it is.
Because I don't want this to be the version of a $5 parking ticket. We get $2.50, but nothing changes.
Correct.
Exactly, exactly. behavior.
Yeah. And that is like, we're not here to generate revenue. They're like, this is, I don't know how many people live in this building, but it needs, yeah, absolutely. And it's
the Verona
also,
Gardens down here.
yes.
It's the Verona Gardens.
So I'm seeing that on the map here as well. All right. Well, I want to mention that after seeing the report. So thank you for your report tonight. That's all the questions I had for it.
All right, any other questions for Mr. Teehee? All right, thank you for that report and for that information. We are moving on to the EMS report. Christine?
Thank you. So there were 8 advanced life support calls to the borough for the month of January, 5 basic life support calls, 7 refusals for a total of 20 calls. And then, Rhoda, I think you were asking me once upon a time about, volume of calls coming to the borough versus what LVAS is doing in total. In the month of January, they had 252 calls and we were 20 of them. So that's 8% of the total call volume came to the borough. And then unrelated to the report, I have some good news to share with you all. Jamie Lavelle came back to work 3 weeks ago. So that's awesome news. Right now, he still does not have a voice. He is going to undergo outpatient surgery in March. And he told me it's called a tracheoesophageal puncture to restore his voice. So once he recovers from that, we hope to see his smiling face here. And I knew you all would want to know because we just adore Jamie. And I thought to share some good news that he's recovering.
Very good.
Wish him well.
Thank you, that is good news.
And that's all I have for the EMS report.
All right, thank you, Christine. Next, we have the solicitor's report, Mr. Craig Alexander.
Thank you. I just wanted to report that we did hold an executive session immediately preceding tonight's meeting where we discussed personnel issues, collective bargaining matters, and legal issues. Just a couple minor things on my report this month. What I've been primarily doing is just working with Christine to get some of the things going that she's been working on, some of the policies, contract with the garden club, things of that nature. I do have update on pending legal issues on my report. We did discuss legal issues in the executive session, so I'm not going to further elaborate on that. So that's really all I have to report this month, Mr. President.
All right, thank you. Next, we have the engineer's report, Mr. Matt Pitch.
Thank you. Just a couple of quick updates. They completed the pre-construction televising of the First Street sanitary line. We're waiting on some paperwork from the COG to proceed with the actual installation. As soon as I have those dates, I will get the information out to Christine so we can put information on the website. They will also be putting door hangers along there. If anyone remembers, during this process, you can get the smell of the glue coming up through your sewer. So we'll do our best job to try to get the word out as much as possible. The culvert repair project, I'm working with Christine on that for an exact schedule. We're looking at the possibility of maybe postponing that till next year. We'll be in further discussions moving forward with that one.
Let me just put something in. When you do something with Cantina, it seems like we're always using him. He's a little bigger. Can we set a time limit on him?
Yeah.
Instead of taking it in like 2 years to, pay something? Because it seemed like he was like forever for the ball and forever for Second Street.
Yes.
Okay. Something specific.
Yeah, it's in the contract there.
Okay, because I think when they exceed that, don't they have to pay a fine or something?
There can be the liquidated damages. It's very difficult to go after, but there is some recourse.
I know the ball field, he had a heck of a time getting materials.
Materials slowed them down. We did give them the notice to proceed in November, and then we got hit with some really cold temperatures. And I'm not making excuses either, because certainly even counting those delays, I think it could have come along quicker than what it did.
Usually there's only one guy working.
Yeah.
I have a question for that. Did they look into getting the freezer replaced? There was a tabletop freezer up there. He had trouble exchanging it because it came broken.
Yes.
And he was talking about maybe upgrading it to a cheaper door model that would be bigger.
Yeah.
Instead of the expensive glass front.
I believe he already has it. It's at his garage. It
Okay.
just hasn't been brought up. I'll touch base with him though. And at
I
least,
just want to make sure it wasn't forgotten.
yeah, I'll at least get it to AJ and the guys, if not in the pavilion.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was, much like the ice cream freezer that was used for community days, that's what he was replacing.
Yeah, that's what we had last talked about. I just want to make sure it was still on his radar. It was still.
Yep.
Thank you.
And then we had been awarded an additional Greenways Trails grant for additional park improvements. We had requested $150,000, was awarded $75,000. That will be a 2023 grant. So we have some time to figure out how we're going to adjust the scope on that one. There was quite a few items from basketball court improvements to some walking trail improvements. So we have leeway of adjusting the scope and plenty of time to figure that out. I did talk to the COG, two of the communities that were slated for the COG-wide guaranteed grant this year did not have eligible projects. So it is possible that there could be a $28,000 grant available without the county actually selecting the project. He did call me on that, asked which ones. It can't go towards demos. So our options were either Center Avenue or Riverbank park upgrades. Knowing that we had the GTRP, I told him if possible, and it was able to be given to Verona, that the Center Avenue project would be it. Nothing's determined yet, but there is a possibility we could get that grant as well.
So you know what, when I was at the COG, not to interrupt you, I had highlighted, I was gonna do this as my report, but they had that we, had the safe neighborhood demolitions in Center Avenue storm sewer. And I thought they were gonna give us both,
I don't know.
because I highlighted those. And that's why I was gonna bring up something about the demolitions, so we need to revisit that.
So these were just, I have not heard about the demolitions. I know these were the 3 applications we submitted. The conversation I had with Don was about the Center Avenue. I don't think that they usually don't come out with their awards until about April. We did recently find out that the GEDTF application we submitted for the alley reconstruction project was awarded. We requested $139,400. That is the grant that we received. So by the time all the paperwork and everything's finalized on that, we'll be prepared to bid that out spring of 2023 and have construction spring to summer of 2023 on that. These contracts, the way they run, you find out the award in one spring. By the time you get all the paperwork and everything finalized, it's not until summer. So we wouldn't have enough time to get it in before the paving season ended this year. So that will be a 2023 project. And then I continue to work forward on the Elkasan consent order and regionalization program. And the only other thing I wanted to mention, the state came out with a local share LSA grant. It's very broad in what it can be used for. Taking equipment purchases or basically anything beneficial to increase the quality of life in town. It is on a rather accelerated schedule. We have to submit it by March 15th. There is no match amount required for it. So I did talk with Christine on a few ideas. We were going to put together some costs and then hopefully be able to decide at the workshop possibly what to submit for. And then that would give us enough time to approve the resolution at the next agenda meeting.
I talked to Christine today about a few items on there.
Yeah.
She'll get with you.
Yeah, so it's a very, very broad grant. So we were just kind of coming up with a couple different ideas on that. That's all I have.
What about, Ridge Avenue, the, water runoff?
So I'm gonna work with the road crew. I found an old project file in our archives that I believe there is already an under drain right near the property that is having the water issue that crosses under the road and then goes over the hillside. it's a matter of, I haven't shared it with AJ yet. I'm gonna share it with him, see if he remembers it. He remembers one, on that side of the road down further. I guess the water used to leak out of the rock hillside there, and they put an under drain in years ago. So the thought was we might be able to pick it up from there and continue it. But the drawing I located actually shows that there's one much closer to this house already. He's gonna keep maintaining it with the scraping the ice up. There's not much construction we can do right now, but we're staying on top of it. That way we can make sure to have it corrected before next year.
Thank you.
Thanks for all the work on this. I just do want to remind everyone as we work through what we budgeted for this year and as we see these projects for next year, and I highlighted some of these, we're going to have to remember that these projects do require matches for some of them. So we're going to have to budget for matches. And if we can't budget for matches, we can't budget for, receiving the funds. So it'll be something that from, calendar month 1 moving forward towards budget, I'm just going to keep reminding us all so that we're aware of, it's great. I likened it to a coupon last year where it's great to get a $50 off coupon, but if it costs $500, you don't have 500. It's tough to spend. So, Matt, I appreciate all this homework on it, and you spelling it out makes it a lot easier.
And I did. Christine had emailed me yesterday. I was out of the office most of the afternoon, so I didn't get a chance to send the information to her for the finance meeting. But I got it to her today. I broke it down, all the grants that we have for this year, what the match amounts are, and what we already are anticipating for next year.
Great, I appreciate that.
And I'll put it into an Excel file that can be shared.
Great, and we'll just keep updating as a committee, then share with council, and then when we arrive to budget, this won't be a surprise, or it won't be, eye-opening that we are or are not doing anything, because we can see it as a budget.
Yes, very, very good points. Thank you, Matt, for that. Moving on, we have committee reports. Finance committee, anything?
No, nothing to note. We passed the bills for this evening, and just want to report that our committee did meet for our inaugural meeting last night, and we'll be moving forward with our monthly meetings throughout the rest of the year. That's it.
All right, thank you. Next up is the Recreation and Community Events Committee. Mr. Flota.
Yes, for the last several months, the Parks and Rec Board has been going through their bylaws with a fine-tooth comb and looking for errors and amendments that we've made. And after about 6 months of us doing that, I feel that the Parks and Rec Board feels that their bylaws are ready to move on to the next step, and that would be to get approval by council and for the solicitor, and see if it's worthy to move forward. I believe everybody has a copy. Christina gave you.
This is from earlier today.
Yes.
Can I ask that we use workshop for this, because I haven't had a chance to read from today, but to take a look at this, whether it's through the solicitor's eyes or ours, but I know it was provided today, but if we could work towards the workshop, I can, either see it as, looks good to me, or have a couple questions.
We just found out last week at Parks and Rec meeting, so I told them that it's probably going to be a long, slow process, and even if it does get approved, you still have to be filed with the state. So hopefully, maybe by the end of the year.
Okay. Well, I know myself. I'd appreciate till the workshop, so I'll be sure to review it by then for sure.
Okay.
Vince, can I ask if the non-highlighted part is the bylaws that I had previously?
Yes, all the highlighted stuff is either stuff that was added or stuff that we have changed.
And yellow and green, what's the difference? Because I think somewhere here, I even saw like question
Yellow
marks.
is new, and green is just an amendment.
Green sort of an
Like if you
insert.
look at the first page where it says Article 3 Membership 301, the green will tell you the board consists of, it says 7 changed to no less than 5, but no more than 9.
Okay, I'll compare it with the old ones.
So the green is stuff that would need changed, and the yellow is stuff that is new.
You just adding on.
Yes.
And just overall, before I do read through this, because I know it's whatever it is, 6 pages, 7 pages. Like, what was the overall intent of this overhaul?
There was a lot of things in our previous bylaws that were what seemed to be for like a very larger, maybe like a state rec board or a county rec board. And the rec board felt that it needed amended to fit our town exactly. This was a very generic set of bylaws that we had implemented 5 years ago. And after 5 years, we were able to take stuff out or add stuff that we felt was. If that answers your question.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I think if you want to put it on the agenda for the workshop, and then if council, having a copy of it now, start to review it before then, and then be prepared to discuss at the next workshop meeting, and then alongside the solicitor's review, and if everything, if it's agreeable, then potentially we could put it on the March business meeting for a vote if everything, if we come to consensus on something. So
So I figured we'd ask council first, and then if they didn't see any issues with it, they would move on to it. We don't want to waste this time and money if not ready for that. Yep, that works for me.
Anything else?
Not with that. I have a second item, and it was brought to my attention by the new fire chief that they are looking to have a fireman's parade and award ceremony, and that is looking to take place Saturday, June 18th. And what I believe the chief might still be on if you have to ask questions about it. It is basically a fireman's convention, and they're going to have a battle at the Barrow over in Oakmont the same day earlier. And then afterwards, they're going to have a parade through Oakmont, ending in Verona. And they want to have the award ceremony here at Railroad Park after the parade. So he said the parade will take place between 3 and 5 p.m. depending on how many fire companies participate in this. The parade normally will take between 1 to 2.5 hours long. And the award ceremony will take place immediately following the parade, and it will be no later than 10 p.m. At least he said normally they're done around 9. So I told him that we have a curfew at 10 p.m. He said that they will definitely be done by then. They will probably be requesting a street closure for the parade. I told them that that is a state road, and they would have to talk to PennDOT about that. And that the award ceremony on East Railroad, they would also be requesting East Railroad be shut down because they have to park, I don't know, 50 fire engines on it. So I did tell them we're working on a policy, but it is not in effect yet, and that I would bring it up at the council meeting because I want everybody to know about this as soon as possible in case it takes place. It's at least brought up in a public forum as early as we know. That's where we're at with that. And if you have any questions, if the fire chief is still on, you can ask him.
What was the date of that event again?
That would be June 18th,
June 18th.
Saturday. And the parade is going to start between 3 and 5 in Oakmont and end in Verona, and they won't be in the park after that.
And this is not the actual application. This is just a heads up that it's coming our way.
This is heads up and stuff. We don't have an application process, application yet. So the fire chief called me, asked me my advice on what to do, and I said, bring it up at the next council meeting and we'll get yours. That's where we're at right now.
Yeah, so the street closure permit application process, that is a policy that's in development. Still takes some time, but I would think that they would need to go through the similar event permits that the Botany and Booze, or for the Garden Club went through for Botany Booze, use of the park and special event permit, just so that the borough staff and everyone are aware, and council's aware, and the mayor, police chief, etc. So that I think would be the next step once they have the details.
I did refer him to talk to Christine about permits. I don't know if he
Okay.
has yet. So,
All right,
correct.
sounds good.
Vince, I do have a question regarding the Parks and Recreation Board. Were recent elections held?
Yes, we did hold recent elections for officers. Sorry about that. Timothy Long is now president of the Parks and Rec Board, or chair, and James Ashball is vice president and co-chair. And Rhea Homa remains secretary. And Laura Homa is still the treasurer, and Laura Jacko is the secretary. Thank you for reminding me, Trish.
All right, congratulations to the new officers of the rec board. That's all. Yeah. Okay, thank you. Moving on, we have the Public Safety Committee. Mr. Suchovich, do you have anything?
We really have nothing at this time. We're meeting on the fourth Monday of each month at 6 p.m. And well, as you heard, we have a couple things to really get into right away. So,
okay.
We'll know, next month will be a different report.
Okay, great.
So
thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next we have the Communications Committee with Ms. Provenza.
Thank you, President Dave, and good evening, everyone. First item on the list is newsletter. We have a lot of events coming up, and we really would need your ads and your articles by Tuesday, March the 1st. So if you can get them to us even before that, that would be great, because it gives us more time to get everything put together and to the printer. Second item, Chamber of Commerce. The next meeting will be held on Tuesday, February the 15th, here in the municipal building at 7 p.m. It will be a regular meeting, and also there will be a presentation of the slate of candidates. And the following month then will be the election. Third item, Historical Society. The meeting will be on Thursday, February 17th at 7 p.m. And weather permitting, and we're hoping for good weather, we will have the movie entitled The Strip District. And that is going to be a great movie. We have many people who come into Pittsburgh, and one of the favorite places they like to go to is the Strip District. Many, many interesting stores and shops there. So this should be a great movie. And this is always open to the public. So we really encourage you to come. These meetings are wonderful, and we get speakers, which do a great job also. And if we do have to cancel, Rhoda will be sending out an email to let everyone know that canceling because of weather. And if not, the movie will go on. Number 4, the Twin Borough Ministries. The Twin Borough dinners are going to be scheduled for Wednesday, February 23rd from 4:30 to 6:30. And they will be hosted by Longwood of Oakmont. They will also have homemade soup and applesauce for sale. And if you're interested in ordering, you can reach Shirley Davis at 412-828-3412. And if anyone at all is in need of food, you can contact Judy Myers at the Methodist Church. And her number is 412-828-7394. And lastly, I did speak with ALOM, and they are currently working on the spring conference, which is going to be held up at Seven Springs, April the 7th through the 10th. Now, they have received all of our work for Banner Community, and we will be accepted again as a Banner Community, and that will entitle us to one scholarship, which that means that one person from our council can go up to Seven Springs to the conferences only. This will not include food or lodging, but anyone that would like to go up they're welcome to come up, and there will be no charge for that. So if I have any other updates on this, I do stay in touch with them. I will be glad to share them at another meeting. If there are any questions or comments, I'll be glad to take them. And if not, this concludes my reports. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Sylvia.
You're welcome.
Any questions or comments there? Okay. Moving on, next we have the Infrastructure and Asset Management Committee, Mrs. Rezek Showalter.
Thank you, Mr. President. Council members, Mayor, you'll notice on your agenda tonight under the action items, there is a resolution included for the purchase of salt in an emergency. So this would be going outside of our normal means of receiving it, which we receive it through a agreement where we get a highly discounted rate. So it's obviously the preferred way to procure it, but from time to time we are experiencing distribution issues. So this resolution would allow our staff to procure salt in these situations, these emergencies, from sources outside of these means. We consulted one company.
Trish, just sorry to interrupt. Your screen share is just showing the menu bar of your Microsoft Word.
That's not helpful. Is
Okay.
that any better?
Yep, that's better. We can
There we
see most of it.
You can zoom in more, like probably double if you need to.
Okay.
So it's.
Thanks.
Okay. So we did consult one company with the help of Mayor Dave, who estimated that we would pay approximately $100 per ton. Currently, we pay $80 per ton in our preferred agreement. But again, in the case of emergency, this would allow us to procure salt if we run out. So it is at a higher rate, so we would not want to use this all the time, but we certainly don't want to run into instances where we don't have salt. AJ estimates that 50 tons is typically at least enough to cover one snowfall. And the last snowfall, he said that they had used about 50 tons. So this should be the minimum, like, responsible amount to get us through a snowstorm that is on the heavier side. So I just wanted to introduce this ahead of the vote later on in case there was any additional discussion, questions, or comments that anyone wanted to go over. I apologize for putting this on the business meeting as opposed to workshop, but due to the necessity of this, we thought it was important to introduce this during this month's business meeting. So I'll pause for any questions.
I'm assuming Christine and AJ, I mean, you both have reviewed this, right?
Well, I mean, I wrote it
Okay.
based on, feedback that, that Trish, AJ, and I talked about.
Okay.
When the three of us met a week or so ago. And the 50 tons is, one truckload is like 22 or 23 tons-ish. And so 50, we probably wouldn't get 50. We'd probably end up with like 45-ish because they're not going to bring just a couple of tons. And then, as Trish said, we get the preferred price purchasing through the SHACOG, but there have been, as we discussed earlier, some issues related to trucking and distribution. It's not a salt shortage. The trucks aren't getting it where it needs to go in a timely manner.
Other people's trucks, not ours.
Yeah, not ours. No, the distribution
Industries.
trucks coming from Cargill, they use multiple vendors for shipping and it's just not getting out there. So this is, this particular resolution and policy to allow for emergency purchasing really is in the case of a true emergency because it is, a quarter more expensive. But if we are straight up out of salt, we cannot get salt there for whatever reason. If there's a shortage, we may not be able to get it anyway. So this doesn't guarantee we get salt. This would just be more of, we have zero salt. There's a large storm coming. We know an ice storm is coming and we can get salt from somewhere else because it's a distribution problem as opposed to a shortage problem. If it's a shortage, we're still out of luck because then there just isn't salt. Or if the rivers are frozen and we can't get salt, up or down the river, then that's a different kind of problem that's not solved by any policy that we can create.
Okay. Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Okay. So this is on the list of new business action items, so we'll be coming back to this later. Did you have anything else, Trish?
No, that's all I have to report tonight. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And last but not least, we have the Community Development Committee. Ms. Ward.
Thank you. What I would like to question, because I was talking to Christine about the codification of adopted ordinances through the years, and I'm not sure, did we say in 2019 that we haven't actually done that?
It's been a couple of years. Trish, you had started it, but I don't remember the end result of that back when the ordinance committee existed under the previous council.
Yes, you're correct, Christine. The chair prior to me, Nancy Carpenter, advised waiting till there was a batch of many in order to save on the costs, because you get more value by doing many at one time as opposed to one at one time. But we may be at a good point to do that.
Okay, so what we have to do is look back and see when the last year was, because it's very important that we can keep up with that. And I understand it's expensive, but it's important that we keep up with that. Eco 360. And also, because we have some serious snow days, I'm just questioning if we could possibly get the police to start doing citations on the snow and ice, because right now ice is for us to pay VIU to go around writing citations is like $65 a citation, which is almost insane. When we have the police, I understand that they were hired to, to protect the, citizens, with laws and things of that nature. But right now, this is very serious because we can't afford to pay VIU to, write citations for snow and ice removal. So I don't know if we have to revisit their contract, or can we request, that they do that or start doing it? Because I'll tell you, it was a serious problem. I know even up on the hill, a lot of people were not cleaning their sidewalks. It was serious.
The chief did put door hangers on. I told him that I wanted them, the ordinance enforced. The Verona Police Department has always done snow, weeds, and grass in the past.
That would help.
If it's the pleasure of the board, and that's what I want to talk to the committee when we meet, about what you want my officers to do. I have no problem in doing it. They're out on the road more than anybody. They can stop, put a door hanger, knock at the door, or whatever. It's good public relations also, as far as I'm concerned.
Well,
in doing that.
They know this town better than any of us because they drive 24/7. So I would hope that maybe we could work together and work some system out that they can, start doing that. Well, right now it's snow and ice, but in the spring and summer, they could do.
Like I said, I'm going to meet with the board, and we'll see what they want to do. And by the end of the month, we'll have a decision
By workshop?
By the workshop, most definitely, yes.
And also, I'm encouraging people to start using the tip sheets. I'm trying to encourage the public to put in their input concerning properties of concern, because our mutual goal is to get properties in compliance and for the safety of the borough. And our committee meeting is the first meeting that we're going to have is the third Monday at 7 o'clock here. I was going to question, would we have like a Zoom connection that evening?
If you tell me you want a Zoom meeting, then I will set up a Zoom link.
Okay.
And in fact, this is sort of a public service announcement for all the committee chairs that have not informed me if you're doing Zoom or in person. You need to let me know one or the other. If it's Zoom, I'll set up the link. I'll post it on the website. People can join. If it's in person, I need to know that too, so I can just say it'll be in council chambers.
I prefer, I have to get together with Ray and Joe, but, I prefer in person, but.
Me too.
Can I make a suggestion now?
Sure.
Because just like Trish tonight, emergencies are happening constantly. We set all committee meetings up on Zoom link. Even if we meet in person, if somebody gets ill or something, you can't attend the in-person meeting, the Zoom link will already exist.
Sure, you just need to tell me what you want. So
Yeah.
I've only heard from 2 committees so far about what that committee's
can
gonna
set
do.
The
So
recreation
send me an email, please. And I will happily set up a Zoom, a recurring Zoom, post it to the website. It'll be recurring. It'll be the same one every time. So I'm not gonna change it every month. And you can click it and do your thing.
I appreciate that. And that's basically it.
Solicitor, for her report, she's mentioning something I think is the first of the 3 bullets for Act 65 as emergency business. So with ice and snow removal and how timely it is and how it's been brought to our attention, I wanted to ask you, Solicitor, if it's okay that we discuss as a full council now, as it might relate to real or potential emergency involving clear and present danger to life or property.
Sure.
Is that worth
Absolutely.
just what? So all to say, Rhoda, what you just mentioned is something that you want to address. And as mayor, you mentioned about the grass, the weeds, the ice, the snow. I don't want to wait a month for us to meet as a committee. I don't want to wait till everything's melted and done. So I'm going to ask that we address this as a full council now. So if we want to have, as mayor asked, the will of council for the police to do that and extend themselves to do that, I want to hold that discussion now. If we could.
I'm all for it.
Is that okay, Solicitor?
Yes.
Okay.
And this is to have the police enforce the ordinance regarding snow and ice removal.
Yeah, they could go around and get the names and address, and they could turn it over to Annette, and Annette could type whatever issue up and then mail them out.
And
I
I
honestly thought they were still doing that, like Mayor said, they've done it for 20 years.
They've done it longer than that. They've always
Well,
done
I'm
that.
only that. I can only remember now.
And I agree, they're
So, yeah.
patrolling 24 hours. They know our neighborhoods. They know every corner. They know it in the day of light. They know it in the dark. They know where, all these things. So I think if we have feet on the ground, if we have, people driving streets, if the department can dedicate their time, especially now, to doing that, I would be in favor for the Wolf Council to have that done by the police department.
And I'm hoping we can work together. Because I understand they have their responsibilities. I get it. But I just was hoping we could work together that they can help us, because financially speaking, we need their help. There's snow and ice and weeds and like that.
They will
Yeah.
work together.
Yeah, and it is costly to have BIU come out and do that
Sure.
individually
And it's
on a
delayed.
whim.
Yeah.
It's a delayed response. So I'm in favor of that.
And just to note too, from last night, there was a helicopter circling. I thought they were landing at Cribbs Field, and I heard siren, all these things. I walked up to see what was going on. And one of the things I would have never thought is that I had saw, there was multiple fire departments that were on call, and they were literally using the fire hydrant in front of the home. And they were coming out coughing, kneeling down on the sidewalk that was cleared for them to do that. So they had to set up business there as a fire department, multiple fire departments. And fortunately, that property owner had shoveled the walk, so they had that afforded to them. Also to say that, we are a walkable school district. So we have students, we have teachers, we have people who park and walk short distance to get to the front of the classroom or from their front steps. Also, we have the postal service that operates, every day of the week. So for many reasons, I think that we need to, and the business district as well, we want people to shop and spend and be able to work and get to work safely. But extending the police to do this, I don't think it's extending in, beyond what they're doing. It's just making sure that it's a focus and they understand that it's important to council.
We have habitual individuals that are constantly doing that. So we need to
Yeah.
make them more aware and conscientious of the safety.
Agreed.
I'm sorry, Rhoda, can you repeat your last point and possibly grab the mic in the front? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I hear that. I'm saying that many times, they're habitual individuals, that they do it constantly, that they don't clean off their sidewalks. And I know for myself, even in our neighborhood, when we have older ones, we all pitch in and help each other. So there's, an opportunity for, helping a neighbor, helping him to help people. I'm just saying, sometimes it's like the same people over and over that don't clean the sidewalk.
And I think if the police are able to help give that first warning or provide the citation if necessary, but it has to start somewhere. So if you ignore it, you're just waiting for it to melt. And if it waits to melt, it's going to ice over. And I'm sure we could all, appreciate, if you have a neighbor, help a neighbor. If you can do it, you should be doing it.
And can I just, if the police are going to be doing door hangers, then I will need, Mayor, for part of this discussion, for the police department to provide me with a list of addresses that are getting door hangers, because if Mike of BIU goes out and it's the same house that didn't shovel again, and he issues a notice of violation, then that's actually a second violation, or, a second instance. So police and BIU will need to coordinate.
Yeah, no problem at all.
And further, I would say if they start to hang door hangers on one street, I feel that they need to check the entire street, because I have gotten calls stating that I got a door hanger, but my neighbor didn't. Now, all this is alleged. I don't know, because I don't have addresses of where door hangers were hung. But it just needs to be, I don't know that they'll do the whole street or the whole town every single time, but if they go on one street, it needs to be the entire street and not just,
Most definitely, they shouldn't be doing that, exactly.
and I'm not saying they were. This is
Right.
like what was reported to me in a complaint. And,
Right.
we don't know, was the door hanger already removed, or did it blow away, or what happened? Just stating that the whole street would need to be done for fairness and consistency, street to street.
So can I make a motion that we adopt that we make this the priority of our police department, that they help ticket door hangers during snow and ice in the winter months?
Well, not only door hangers, but I mean citations also.
Sure. Yes.
The door hangers are basically a warning.
Let me make do you have a motion you want to make, or does someone have a better motion? I just want to make sure that we made an emotion.
I have a question. Would they need to be called by a resident, and would they have to be responding to a complaint in order to issue the ticket, or
No.
would this be something that
Proactively.
they just saw it?
As they're
they would
driving
do?
by, just like
Okay.
any one of us here sees, snow.
I just wanted for clarification. to make
Police
sure.
officers, by the nature of their duties, are also ordinance officers. So they can enforce ordinances 24 hours a day, 7 days a week if they want to. But they don't want to. I mean, the chief, they'd rather be out patrolling and issuing citations other than what they consider, ordinance work, which doesn't necessarily require a badge. But it is one of their duties.
During a big snowstorm, how much more is really going on? You know what I mean? There's not too
Activity is
much-
a little dormant.
There's not too much speeding, there's not too much, mostly the roads are, like this past week, there was nobody on the roads, because they were bad, so that would be a perfect time for the police to.
So Craig, this is Trish. If I may ask a question on your last statement, do we need a motion, since this is something that is already, the police are already empowered to do so?
You don't necessarily need a motion. In fact, the mayor can just direct them because he directs the police force. But what I took from Councilman Warren is that he wanted to make a motion to support the idea that the police are going to do this more routinely during these snow emergencies.
Yeah, so this is more of a show of support, the will of council, as it shows as an emergency. I mean, a public safety emergency. I just wanted to address it as, I think it's important. I know it's been mentioned twice as it needs to be discussed. I don't want to wait a month. So the reason I want to make a motion is just so we're all acknowledging the same thing at the same meeting, and it's not a question in the next few months.
The motion on the floor?
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion that council provide the support mayor needs to make sure that our police department is feet on the ground, issuing citations, giving notice, ticketing, and making sure that our sidewalks and streets are as clean as they can be for the safety of all residents.
All right, first by Mr. Warren, second by Mrs. Worf. Any questions or comments?
I mean, if
Right,
we're going to make this type of motion, sorry, this is Trish, should we make it more broadly that, council should always support the mayor in making these decisions for the police department, not just regards to snow?
My motion was for the public safety that we brought up for Act 65 as a matter of emergency.
Okay.
I mean, if you want to make a different motion. I don't know.
It's more just a question.
The
for
grass isn't
council.
growing. I mean, you can do that already.
Might one compromise be make the motion for snow and ice, and then, I mean, we're trying to do everything by resolution so that there's a paper trail of decisions that are made.
It's a good
And
point.
then for the next business meeting, I can write up a resolution that includes not just snow and ice and this emergency matter, but also tall grass and weeds, because we're looking at enforcement of those kinds
All
of
of
things as well.
ordinances.
Yeah, all of that, or all of the ordinances, and then it would be broader
think
and
that's
documented and a paper trail, but we still meet the needs of snow and ice now.
And that's what the mayor wanted as well.
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
So good for now, or would you like me to?
There's a motion on the floor.
Yeah, right. And we're through discussion.
So
I'm good.
an
Redacted.
amendment to make that specific to snow and ice. Correct? You're amending that motion.
Yes, I'm gonna amend my motion that was seconded. That's now in discussion to make sure it includes for the
Another winter.
snow, ice, and other winter incident, and also grass, weeds, and anything,
Ordinance.
yeah, ordinance related that's already in our books that can be enforced.
And do you still agree with the second there?
I do.
Okay. So motion by Mr. Ward, second by Mrs. Wharf. Any other questions or comments? All right, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, motion passed. Okay, so that concludes our committee reports. Yeah, just to reiterate what Christine said about, we have the committee meetings on the schedule. They're on the website under council committees. So anyone can refer to that. The public can refer to that. Any other council members that need to attend or wish to attend can feel free, and it will be posted either Zoom or in person at the Borough Building. I know we don't have a whole lot at this time, and that's understandable because we're still getting rolling in the new year with the new council. Just remind everyone to look back to the priorities list we created last meeting, and just look towards that for your future council or your future committee meetings, and maybe use that as a guide on things to report on for future business meetings. So with that, we'll move on to reports of special committees. ALOM, Sylvia, was there anything else you needed to say about ALOM, or did you cover that already?
I did cover that, Dave, and if there's any updates, I generally stay in touch with them on a regular basis. I'll be glad to give updates at a following meeting.
Okay, great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
COG, did you have anything else?
It's just basically, at the club meetings, they go over all the applications that are applying for they're applying for grants. And that sort of took my thunder away with the demolitions, but hopefully that can be revisited.
Yep. Yeah, I know from past COG meetings, Matt usually is on top of those. So the COG meetings are a lot of times reiterating the same stuff for all the different municipalities. You see what everyone else is putting in for and all that. So yeah, there usually isn't a whole lot of note, but anytime there is, feel free to add that. All right, thank you. So moving on to new business. I'll read the topic or the resolution, and then I'll turn it to Christine if there's additional background or information needed. So the first one we have is a resolution to adopt the communication with engineer policy. Do we need to read the whole thing?
No, this was distributed last time.
That's right. So, okay, so this was reviewed at the workshop, and
I'll make the motion to adopt.
okay.
Second.
So first by Mr. Warren, second by Mr. Suchovich. Any questions or comments? All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, motion passed. Next is a resolution to adopt the communication with solicitor policy. This is similar to the first one with the engineer. This is just for the solicitor. Do I have a motion for that? All right, I heard first by Mr. Suchovich, second by Mrs. Wharf. Any questions or comments? All right, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion passed. Next is a resolution to approve Christine Durant, for our secretary to attend conferences.
I'll make that motion.
Sylvia.
Second.
I heard first by Rhoda and second by Sylvia. Any questions or comments?
Christine, this is Trish. I was just wondering if you had any in mind at this point.
There was one I was really hoping to go to, that's the PELRAS conference, but it costs $575, so I will not be attending that one since it would blow through over half of the conference budget that's allowed for my position. And I talked to Susan about a couple of other ones, but that was just today and I haven't had a chance to identify other ones that look really good. Just sometimes with these conferences, there's like an early bird special and I don't want to have to wait 2 weeks to get permission, then miss the early bird and then spend, you know, more of the budget just because I had to wait 2 weeks. So I put this together just as it's already in the budget. It's part of my employment agreement. So please just give me authorization, then I can, you know, I mean, I'm in touch with Dave all the time and in touch with a lot of you all the time, actually, and Susan. So, you know, that's kind of the impetus for putting this together.
Yeah, we're excited to support that.
All right. Any other questions or comments?
No.
All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, motion passed. Next, we have a resolution to submit an application to hire a local government academy intern in 2022. Christine, do you want to explain more about this?
Sure. So the local government academy runs what they call a municipal intern program. And we have not ever applied for that. And they actually, the way that it works in terms of paying said intern, a graduate student is required to be paid $12 an hour, but LGA gets funding from various sources that would allow for half of those wages to be reimbursed. So it would cost us $6 an hour for a grad student, $5.50 if we ended up selecting an undergraduate as the intern. And we need to guarantee this person 400 hours of work, but no more than 480 hours of work. And I was thinking about like, well, what would this person do? And I talked to Rhoda about this, and some of this relates directly to what all of council has just sort of been talking about with respect to vacant properties. So what I was thinking this person would do, oh, and then in terms of paying for it, because I know we don't have an intern line. We do, however, have an administrative assistant line, and that person's not hired. So we're not spending money for the administrative assistant at this point. And it turns out that to pay an intern $6 an hour for the required time is a little bit less, like $200 less than the amount we're saving by not paying an administrative intern for the months of January and February this year. So in terms of like money, it's a wash.
Win-win-win.
But we would get an intern. And so I was thinking this intern would assist in data analysis and mapping of vacant properties and the creation of a vacant properties database. One thing I need to find out with LGA is if they have mapping access, or if the student would have mapping access through their university, or if that's something that we would need to modify our proposal because we don't necessarily have mapping. I do have a source for very inexpensive mapping. I think it's like $700 a year, but I'm waiting for a callback to have the actual quote. So I don't know if that's in the budget. So we may have to modify, but in a dream world, we would have mapping of vacant properties. And then if time permits for this person to perform the data analysis and mapping for the demographics and housing elements of a comprehensive plan. So these would be relying on publicly available data sources, including from the Census Bureau, as well as the Allegheny County Real Estate Office. Also potentially some local data that's been, collected maybe by Mike as he's like going through and, issuing citations around town. If we can, it would be great to, have this vacant property database that would also, and this person would have to coordinate with, Mike, possibly you, Matt, although I don't know how we really want to pay you to do this. But if you just have some information for it, working with AJ or other borough employees to, especially if the property is rehabable or not rehabable, does it need to be demolished? Is it already condemned? Like that sort of thing. And we've talked about vacant properties a lot and how, they pose a problem within the community. So that's what they would work on as their primary thing. And then secondary, if there's time, would be this demographics and housing elements of the comp plan. We've talked at length about how we need a comp plan. And this would just be the data analysis and mapping part, and they could turn that over. So like the maps, the graphs, tables, like that kind of thing. And then, I don't know that they would have time to write it, do all this in 400 hours, but I think it'd be really great if we don't get an intern, and then so LGA doesn't pick an intern for us. They go through a process of vetting projects. If they like our project, then it moves forward. They're going to pick 20 projects, and then at that point they have an intern fair, and the interns bring their resumes and they come to basically a job fair. And then like I would certainly go, and maybe a member of council would go to the job fair, collect resumes, meet with people, set up interviews, that whole thing, and then select an intern. So we would ultimately at the end be responsible for hiring the person, paying them, and then we get reimbursed. So anyway, that's the idea, and you can discuss and decide if that's something that you all are interested in. And I put it forward here and wasn't workshop because of timing. It's due. It's due February. It's due next week, the 15th.
I make the motion to pursue this.
Seconded.
I think it's a smart use of already budgeted dollars. So I appreciate the long setup to it. But when I look at this, actually the dollar amount's very minimal, and we get very highly educated, recently graduating people to help us.
So first by Mr. Warren, second by Mrs. Worf. Any other questions or comments? I agree. I second Mr. Warren's comments. I think this is a great use or great utilization of a potential untapped resource to do something really good that's much needed. So with that, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, motion passed. Next, we have a resolution to allow the Historical Society to use council chambers the third Thursday of the month through 2022.
I'll make that motion, Dave.
Second.
Okay, first by Mrs. Provenza, second by Mr. Suchovich.
I have a question. It doesn't have any time on here. Does that matter to you, Christine, for a setup or anything? 7 o'clock. I'm just saying, so it doesn't get.
I'll add that.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, motion passed. Next is the resolution to adopt emergency salt purchasing. This was discussed earlier, or presented earlier. Is there any other questions, or do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Second,
All right, first by Mr. Suchovich, second by Mrs. Worf. Any questions or comments? All right, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion passed. All right, next one. Next one is a resolution to fill the planning commission vacancy. As I understand, we have 2 applicants that I believe everyone should have received a copy of their letters of interest. These were submitted. The deadline we had set was last week, January 31st, and we received both in time for the deadline. Christine, did you want to say anything or read the? Were you going to read the letters?
If you'd like, I can read the letters, or I can screen share them.
Yeah, if you have them and can screen share them, that would probably be.
Sure, let me.
That'd be helpful.
Your permissions, right?
Yeah, good.
Okay, so the first one, can you all see my screen? Yes. So the first one is from Nancy Carpenter, dated January 10th, to the Verona Borough Council. Please accept this letter as my letter of interest to fill the vacancy on the Planning Commission. As a former council member, Ordinance Committee Chair, Vice President, and President of Council, I believe I have a unique perspective that would add positively to the goals and objectives of the Planning Commission. I have recently attended Planning Commission meetings as they related to a future comprehensive plan, along with some members of the previous comp plan task force. I look forward to working with the other members of the commission as we move forward in 2022. Thank you for considering me to fill the Planning Commission vacancy. Sincerely, Nancy Carpenter. So that's the one that we received. And then the other one that we received is from Talia Nevitt. And it's addressed to me just because that's how we told her to send it. So dear Christine, I'm writing in interest of joining the Verona Borough Planning Commission. Since receiving my Master of Social Work from the University of Pittsburgh in 2019, I've become a licensed social worker and have been employed in 3 different positions in government and nonprofit environments. At present, I'm the Assistant Director of Development for Bridgeway Capital, a 501c3 nonprofit organization and certified community development financial institution with the mission to combat injustices and advance opportunities by building capacity, investing capital, and developing underserved areas to grow businesses and revitalize places. Bridgeway currently offers a full suite of economic development solutions aimed at creating opportunity in disadvantaged communities throughout Western Pennsylvania. We assist underserved populations by providing capital and education to ignite business and job growth, develop communities, support entrepreneurs, and expand vital services that strengthen the region. As the Assistant Director of Development for Bridgeway, it is my responsibility to support the growth and impact of our vital programs by seeking and reporting on funding opportunities from both local, regional, and national foundations and organizations, as well as governmental sources. Previously, I worked for the Neighborhood Academy as Development Associate, where I was solely responsible for foundation relationships through grant and proposal writing, as well as our database system, where I managed, oversaw, and acknowledged all gifts through individuals, corporations, and foundations that came to TNA. I also pursued government funding for the school through the local community development block grant and other state sources, such as the Pennsylvania Commission on Crime and Delinquency. At the Borough of Etna, I coordinated and managed short and long-term environmental, economic, and other municipal projects, facilitated internal and external communications, and organized in collaboration with local economic development organizations. I facilitated the development and implementation of new grant projects from sources both locally, regionally, and federally. I also coordinated and tracked existing grant projects, including reporting and budgeting from sources such as the Department of Environmental Protection, Department of Transportation, and the Redevelopment Authority of Allegheny County, and more. I attended every borough council meeting during my tenure at the borough. I learned a lot about how commissions work and contribute to the effectiveness of local governance. I'm excited about the opportunity to contribute to the successful community development of Verona Borough, which I have called home since March 2021. I believe that my experience in and knowledge of community and economic development will prove useful to the commission. I also think joining the commission will be a great learning and growth opportunity that will allow me to contribute my skills to the community. I believe that my combined professional experiences, education, and leadership skills will enable me to effectively complete the full requirements of the position to which I'm applying, while offering me the opportunity to grow professionally and serve my neighbors. I appreciate you taking the time to consider my letter, and I look forward to getting to know you better. Sincerely, Talia Nevitt.
All right, thank you, Christine. Before we proceed, I just want to thank both candidates for their very compelling letters of interest. I think this is great that we have two very strong candidates to choose from. Now, I'm not sure, Solicitor, how we need to go about this. I know this isn't like a council officer position. Do we, someone need to make a motion for an individual, or how do we?
It's really either way that you want to do it. Somebody can make a motion for one candidate and just do an up or down vote. If they get the 4 votes, then that candidate wins. If not, you go to the other one. Or another way that I often do it is, instead of voting yay or nay, you vote for the person that you want. So if it's Vince's vote, he would say either, what are their names?
Nancy or Talia.
You have to do a secret ballot now.
And not do a secret ballot. That the courts have ruled on that. When the mayor opened the reorganization meetings, he's always like to do the up or down vote on the individuals. So your preference.
Okay.
Craig, I have a question. Is it necessary to meet, well, of course, we know Nancy Carpenter, she lives here and she's worked here in council, but is it necessary to meet these people before we vote?
No, it's not even necessary to get letters of intent, but you choose to do that to get the greater pool of candidates.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. My question was, is it necessary to meet them in person before voting?
The answer is no. You have their letters of intent, which is basically their resume. And
right. Okay.
Today's the day to move forward.
Okay,
yeah.
Thank you.
So we'll just go to each candidate, do an up or down vote then. I don't know, do we need to do a roll call, or is it?
We'll wait to see if you get any no votes.
Okay. All right. Does someone need to make a motion?
Yes.
Okay.
I'll make a motion that we hire, or we put in Talia Nevitt.
I'll second.
All right. First is from Mr. Suchovich. Second is from Mr. Flota, and that is a motion to appoint Talia Nevitt to Planning Commission.
So for discussion, I want to acknowledge Nancy's history of work she's done here. I want to acknowledge and let her know that we appreciate her time. Talia, with the letter we just had read to us from Christine, is a very well qualified new resident that I am very excited to see somebody not only this qualified in our neighborhood, but stepping up for this. So I know Nancy's very active already. I see the second for Talia, and I just want to make note that I want to acknowledge we have 2 strong candidates, and glad to see that we have a choice for this evening.
I have a question. Do you know anything about Talia? No. She mentioned that.
I don't know
if you
her.
worked with her on any projects over there or anything.
No.
No, I was talking to Joe.
Oh, me through In Etna?
Yeah.
No, not through Etna.
I know that's close to your.
Yeah, so I was, we were part of Artez, part of the COG on that side of the river. Lots of community members there. I don't know if I've known her through
I just
anything.
was asking if you worked on any projects with her, could give us any background.
And if I did, and I do, and I don't remember, I apologize to her, but I know that in the time I was in Aspinwall across the river for, I was appointed and also served full term of council in Aspinwall. Etna was fast growing. They were ahead of the curve. They had a lot of things on their riverfront. They had a strong business district. So if what we read here as a strong resume of being attentive, professionally and within the community, I mean, these speak for themselves. Yeah. The whole stretch. Yeah.
I also agree with Mr. Warren that there's two good candidates, and it's nice that we get the two, we got two applications. But it's nice that we possibly can put someone new that's willing to step up from the town and get involved.
Yeah.
And I thank them both for applying.
Agreed.
Yeah, I second those sentiments, and I appreciate both candidates for applying, taking the time to write a letter, and share these details. I think it is unusual that we have more candidates than positions open, so that is good to see, and I hope that trend continues in the future. So any other questions or comments on the motion? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, motion passes.
Thank you to both, and congratulations to Talia.
Yes, thank you to both, and congratulations. Next, we have resolution to continue with the computer guys at a rate of $125 an hour for 2022, and to accept the one-year service agreement in the amount of $2,508. Christine, do you have anything else you want to add on?
This is what we're currently doing. The service agreement amounts to consulting and a retainer so that we can get quick service. And the computer guys typically charge $200 per hour. So when they are called on site, then we're billed at $125 instead of $200 per hour.
I'll make the motion.
I have a question. Is this just for the police computers?
Well, that's a funny question.
That's why I'm asking.
So the computer guys purchased this contract from another company that we used to use, and it was only for the police department. If you read it, it also says like the other side of the hallway. But when you talk to them, they've said like, it's really only for the police department, but we'll help you out. I mean, the other reality is like, I don't have so many computer needs that I can't figure out.
There's a lot of tech issues, and I just wanted to make sure that I didn't know if they were only going to handle the tech issues, computer issues in the police department.
That's their
or
primary thing.
If they were called, could they handle a tech issue on the boroughs?
It sounds like they would handle it like if I had a computer issue, but they're not like for this room, this kind of tech issue stuff.
Okay.
That's not their
At the same reduced rate. Or
at the
rate, I'm
same
sorry.
reduced rate. I mean, they said they would help out the admin side, but the contract it was purchased only to do with the.
So we still would probably need to look into a tech company to handle non-police issues as we grow.
Maybe as we grow, but I mean, the fact is like there aren't so many tech issues over here, and so I would not say it is a good use of money to get under contract with somebody to ensure that we have tech support whenever I need it, because really don't need it.
Well, just, I know that we've had issues in the past, like we didn't even know where the modem was for the borough side, so like issues like that, or just Zoom issues and hooking up all these wires and microphone issues.
Yeah, they don't do this side. It's really like the desktop computers that are in there. And for the police department, it's also like connecting into like state agencies and things like that. So like that's like really what this is for.
Right, that was one question.
And to add to that though, Christine, you have You did, I think, last fall prepare a document for council input on as far as overall borough technology needs. So if we did identify other areas where we need IT or technology support, I think, we have developed a list of what we have and what we might need, and we could look at, covering
Yes.
that elsewhere,
That's why I meant going forward. So
Yeah.
I know that we are increasing our security cameras. We are, and that might not be necessarily a food issue, it might be another issue. That we would need access to these security cameras. We have Wi-Fi at Cribs Field now, so that we're adding to our tech problems with the tech that we're adding, or potential tech problems by adding the tech that we are adding to those. So in the future, we might need a tech company just to handle non-police issues.
Yeah, I think we could look at that if that comes up. Okay, so there's a motion on the floor, first by Mr. Suchovich, second by Mrs. Wharf. Any other questions or comments? All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion passed. Next, we have a resolution to continue with Mr. John for sanitation services at Riverbank Park for 2022. You should have that in front of you. Anyone want to make a motion on that? All right, first by Mrs. Wharf, second by Mr. Suchovich.
Was it discussed that we would have 2 of these units at Cribs Field Park, or just 1?
That's what I was gonna ask also. I thought we were gonna just continue the ones with Cribs, is that?
It says
am I
on
right
here,
with that?
Well, if it's not necessary anymore, well, my question was that, and then
it says on here Riverbank Park.
Well, there's Cribs Field up top.
Yeah,
Yeah.
On the resolution, I'm saying. That's the
it was,
proposal.
I wrote the resolution assuming that the decision to not pay for Mr. John's sanitation stations at Cribs was still valid,
Okay,
that we were
yeah,
just gonna
that's-
use the
that's-
bathrooms
okay,
up
got
there.
By Riverbank Park.
Yeah, so but this is just the contract that they sent over because it's time to renew. So that we would get rid of the Cribs Field one, well, 2, because there were supposed to be 2 up there, and then have 1 station at Riverbank Park.
Thank you for
update you.
clarification. I was just making sure that
An
we were
update.
following through with what we had
So
agreed
those
upon.
bathrooms at Cribs aren't gonna be that-
They're gonna be open when the park's up.
that's-
So if the park's closed, there shouldn't be people in there using the bathroom anyway.
okay, gotcha.
All right, any other questions or comments? All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion passed. Next is a resolution to set the date for the wrestling event as Saturday, August 20th in Cribs Field.
I'll make that motion.
All right, first by Mr. Suchovich, second by Mrs. Wharf. Any questions or comments? All right, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, motion passed. All right, next one is a resolution on the 2022 Botany and Booze event street closure. So there was a presentation at the beginning of the meeting from the Garden Club regarding this event and documents shared. And there's been additional comments from the public in the last several weeks or months. Does anyone, I know there were multiple options presented. I believe there were 3, A, B, and C. Does anyone want to make a motion on one of those options?
I'll make the motion for option A.
I'll second, that is close the entire street.
Yes.
Yes, from the
Borough Garage.
Borough Garage
Right.
to Ian Miller's.
Okay, I'll second that motion.
And then just to be clear, also up into Allegheny River Boulevard, where it's no entrance in, but you can exit from the alleyways out. Is that correct? Okay.
Right.
Okay,
Thank
We've
so,
always done that.
No, just for clarity though, for what we're voting.
so first is by Mr. Suchovich, second was by Mrs. Wharf. Any other questions or comments?
I think there are a lot of steps into this, and there's a lot of feedback. There was a lot of great discussion, a lot of follow through with what I had seen to be compromise within the business districts, within the community groups, within the residents. So really good dialogue. I think it set a strong precedent for other community groups looking to do things for the better of all the community. So thanks for all the work and feedback that we've received as a council.
Yeah, and I'd just like to add, yeah, there was a lot of feedback from residents and business owners on this. This was a situation where unfortunately, I don't think we were going to be able to please everyone. We're doing our best to try to, balance the different concerns. I think that there are several concerns: parking, pedestrian safety, traffic, access to businesses. This is a very large and popular community event that supports the Garden Club's efforts to beautify Verona. I feel that a full road closure is in the interest of public safety due to the number of pedestrians and the size of the event. It's also consistent with past events of this size and nature. We have other events such as the Car Cruise, Community Day, 150th that have utilized similar closures. It is a limited number of events like this per year. It's not like we're having this sort of thing every month or every weekend throughout the year. So I understand the concerns from business owners about the impact to customers. I feel like and I've spoken to each one of council members individually in the past couple of weeks, about this to try to brainstorm ideas and get good feedback. And I appreciate everyone's feedback. I appreciate the public's feedback, and Christine's feedback, the mayor, Chief, AJ. I mean, everyone, we really tried to look at this thoroughly, and that's why we are developing an application process for this going forward, so that we'll have a checklist that'll be a little bit more streamlined. So I'm hoping everyone can bear with us while we still work on that. But I just think in the end, we're trying to balance the interests of the entire community and looking at the greater good here. And I think there is a greater good and a long-term impact of the event on this town, on everyone, and the effects of the Garden Club's beautification efforts. And I know they've worked really hard last year on this event, and they've been working really hard this year. And I feel like in the end, it's worthy of the full closure for various reasons outlined above. So that's my long-winded comment on that. Any other questions or comments? All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed?
President Dave, I need to make a comment, please. As a board member of the Verona Garden Club, I do not feel justified in voting because of my position, and only for that reason. So I would like to abstain from voting.
Solicitor, is that the valid reason for abstaining?
I talked with Christine about this issue a week or two ago. I must have come up once or twice before. I actually wrote an opinion on this a number of years ago. And basically the Ethics Act requires a person to abstain when there's a conflict of interest. However, Robert's Rules of Order says that you can't compel somebody to vote if they don't want to vote. It's basically a non-vote. They're saying that they don't, well, she's saying that she has some appearance or some perception of a conflict, but that's not really true. But it's basically a non-vote. It's not treated as a no. It's just she's abstaining. There's nothing. I know that you'll go to local government academies and different people will tell you differently.
My research in Robert's Rules of Order says that there's nothing that anybody can do to prevent you from abstaining if that's what you want to do. You're not required to vote, but you're required to abstain when there's a conflict. But you're not required to vote if you don't have to. It's your duty to vote. That's why you were elected. But if you choose not to, Robert's Rules of Order says it's acceptable. And I sent to Christine the opinion that I wrote, 5 or 10 years ago on that topic. And it
Thank you for explaining that, Craig.
routinely comes up every so often because people get conflicting advice on whether you're allowed to abstain or not when you don't have to announce a conflict.
The only reason, as I said, I abstain is because I am on the board of the garden club, and I just didn't feel justified in voting for that reason. I just thought it was better to abstain.
Okay. Thank you, Solicitor, for that explanation.
I hope you all understand. I am not opposed. It's just that I'm on the board, and I felt like, well, of course she's going to vote in everybody's favor because she's on the board. But I just feel because I'm on the board that I should just abstain. I just couldn't justify voting.
Okay, understood. Thank you, Sylvia.
You're welcome.
I'm gonna.
I just hope you all understand my point.
Yes. So there was a little bit of confusion there with the timing. I'm going to take the vote again. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? No opposed. Mrs. Provenza abstained. Motion passed. All right. Moving on.
Dave, excuse me, did you ask for if anyone was not voting? Because right as you did that, my phone rang and I immediately declined the call. So I missed whatever you were saying.
You were marked as an abstention.
Yeah. You were marked as an abstention, Sylvia. There were the remaining 6 council members voted yay in favor.
Okay. Okay.
Next item is the resolution to extend the deadline for regulated rental payments to the 3rd Friday in March. Christine, do you have anything additional to add there?
I'm still updating the list. The list I have for who should get letters sent looks pretty outdated to me. It looks like a very short list. So I'm doing the data analysis to update the list and just need a little more time to get that out. But it's technically due in a couple of weeks. So just want an official extension so I can write a letter to people who normally pay this and just say, you have till the 3rd week this week in March this year.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All right. First by Mr. Suchovich, second by Mrs. Worf. Any questions or comments?
Yeah, is it based on utility records or what? I know it appears to be outdated, which you're probably going to confirm, but what is it based on that you're able to pull this?
So there are 2 data sources. One is a list of updated values for all parcels within the borough. But the issue with that is it only gives the property address. It does not give the owner address. So there's another data source available that the county posts to Pitt's open data source website. And then you have to cross-reference the parcels with the owners. But for any of you that have ever done data analysis, the data is not clean, so it needs cleaned before a comparison can really be done. And then, condensed more so that, like Verona Gardens isn't getting 60 letters. They get 1 letter, that kind of thing. So there's just some cleaning of data of these publicly available data sources, basically from the county. But it's a little messy.
And is this something that an intern would be able to tackle something like this in the future, an instance like this?
I mean, this is easy. It's not hard. It just takes like 2 hours of uninterrupted time so that I don't have to go back and keep QAing what I did because data cleaning is, I used to do it right.
Yep, absolutely. Thank you.
Sure.
All right, any other questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion passed. Last one is a resolution to set the deadline for submission of agenda items for council meetings. So this is, I know in the past, there's sort of been some fuzzy deadlines or, it's changed over the years. So this sort of sets, or it's not sort of, it does set the deadline for submission of agenda items and any supporting documents for council meetings, both workshop and business meetings at 12 o'clock noon the Thursday before the meeting. So this includes agenda items for council members, borough engineer, borough solicitor, chiefs of police and fire, EMS, borough secretary, mayor, and members of the public seeking to add a registered comment and or any other person or organization seeking to present information or documents at a council meeting. So I feel like this is a very simple but important policy to have, because I know just from talking with Christine, the amount of time that it takes her from the time she asks for agenda items to the deadline, whether it's Thursday or Friday or whenever it may be, through those days, through the weekend and the following Monday, and even leading up to the meeting, to constantly be back and forth, revising, changing things. We really need to streamline that and get on a schedule so that we are thinking ahead to what we're doing and what we're presenting on. I think we need to plan better what we're taking action on and what we're presenting for discussion. So I think this helps us be more thoughtful, more deliberate, more strategic as a board. So I think this is a good idea. So at this time I'll take a motion.
I'll make the motion, Dave.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, first by Mrs. Provenza, second by Mr. Suchovich. Any questions or comments? Anything else from you, Christine?
No, I just think this will help cut down on duplication of work and streamline the process. And to your point, Dave, making us a little more strategic and thinking through what we want to do when.
Yep.
Pounds of paper.
Yep, thank you.
And save pounds of paper.
Yeah, that too.
And as we saw tonight too, Act 65 of 2021 allows us to have things that we provide last minute. So if there were things like discussion tonight that were emergency business by one of the three items, we can still bring those up. It's just, I think, administrative wise, this would be very, very helpful.
Yep, agreed. Any other questions or comments? All right, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, motion passed. That does it for all our new business and resolutions. At this time, council will hear comments on public related items from the public. Please raise your virtual hand, clearly state your name and address, and limit your comments to 3 minutes.
Looking online, it doesn't look like we have any residents with raised hands for public comment at this point.
And we'll give it another few seconds here. Not seeing anything. Okay. Not seeing any hands raised on the Zoom. So at this time, I will take a motion to adjourn.
Make that motion.
Second.
All right. First by Mr. Suchovich, second by Mr. Flota. Any questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passed. Thank you, everyone. Have a great evening.